Chapter 437. Chuanbao Pavilion. Qin Daoxian walked out of the Chuanbao Pavilion again, with a bronze bracelet on his right hand. At the same time, the 200,000 drops of the power of creation he carried were all consumed. But the expression on Qin Daoxian's face was not the slightest heartache, but full of excitement. It's finally here. Qin Daoxian tightened the bronze bracelet in his hand and said silently. The bronze bracelet in his hand was created by the 5-person Taoist team in the Chuanbao Pavilion. Qin Daoxian only needs to sacrifice them at a critical moment, and the 5 copper beads on this bronze bracelet will instantly turn into 5 6th-order low-grade Taoist soldiers, forming a battle against powerful enemies. According to Chuanbao Pavilion, the strength of this 5-person Taoist team is enough to resist the attack of the world's 3rd-layer Taoist, which is very powerful. With this Taoist team protecting him, Qin Daoxian instantly felt a sense of security. The world's 3rd-level Daojun is not comparable to ordinary Yuanshan Daojun. Even among Yuanshan Daojun, the monks who can reach the 3rd level of the world are the best among them. As for the 5th floor of the world, that is the level of the top Taoist. Only a first-class force like Wuxia has a 5th-layer Taoist in the world. The general first-class forces can have 1 or 2 world realm 3rd-layer Daojuns in charge, and it is already incredible. As for world realm 5th-layer Daojun, I dare not even think about it. In other words, with this Taoist team in hand, Wan Xinghai already has the foundation of a first-class force. Of course, the foundation here refers only to the high-end combat power used to sit down the forces. The background of Wan Xinghai, compared with other first-class forces, is still too far behind. Not to mention the rest, in Xianyun continent, first-class forces usually control several or even dozens of countries, and there are at least a few subordinate forces under their command. What's more, it can have dozens of second-rate forces to act as subsidiary forces and front-end thugs. Only in this way can it be called a first-class force. According to this goal, the current Wan Xinghai is still far behind. Unless Wan Xinghai can unify and integrate all the second-rate forces on the northwest frontier of Xianyun continent, can they be qualified to be the first-rate forces. In Fengyun realm, once a new first-class force is born, even Qinzuan City and Liangjiyuan will send a special envoy to confirm. Once the envoy confirms success, the faction will have the opportunity to add a seat in Qinzuan City. It can be said that only by stepping into the first-class forces can we truly stand at the top of the entire Phoenix Meteor realm. As for the ruling class of Fengyun world, they are all those ancient top sects and families. Only these top forces can decide the future and destiny of Fengyun realm. Qin Daoxian knew very little about the top forces in the Fengyun realm before, because they were all in the extraterritorial battlefield of Liangjiyuan, defending against the powerful enemies of the true demon realm. Actually, these top forces have been passing through Qinzuan City and controlling the entire Phoenix Meteor realm, making the world's cultivation forces dare not follow. The Taoist team was purchased from Chuanbao Pavilion, and Qin Daoxian did not stop, took the air shuttle, and flew towards a restaurant in the capital. Lingxi Building. Qin Daoxian's consciousness swept away, looked at the restaurant in front of him, and immediately floated down from the escape shuttle. Enter the restaurant. A young servant stepped forward enthusiastically and greeted, "Senior, are you dating someone, or?" "I have an appointment, box number 12, heard." The little servant took out a disc-shaped magic weapon. After checking it, he stretched out his right hand with a smile and said, "Senior, please come with me." Qin Daoxian nodded slightly. Following behind the little servant, he walked to a box. "Senior, this is the box you reserved for number 12. Do you want to serve it now or later?" After thinking about it, Qin Daoxian said directly, "Now let's serve the food and serve all the best wine and food in your restaurant." Hear this. The young servant's eyes lit up and he shouted in a shrill voice, "Okay, order a Lingxi feast in the 12th box." The little servant's voice was pulled by the elder. Qin Daoxian pushed open the door of box number 12 and walked in. He came to Lingxi Building, naturally, not to satisfy his appetite. In fact, he did date someone. Qin Daoxian made an appointment with no one else. It was the Jindanqi trail he met when he first set foot in the capital of Su 3 years ago. This Jindan stage trail was born in Wuxia. Although the other party's status in Wuxia is not high, he seems to have an extraordinary relationship in the door, and was assigned to the fat poor who oversees the space teleportation formation. You know, taking care of the space teleportation formation naturally includes charging all the cultivators who use the space teleportation formation for teleportation fees. The profits here are not trivial. Although the space teleportation array guarded by the little Taoist priest surnamed Jin Dan is only one of the teleportation arrays that connects the capital of Su Kingdom and the various outside cultivation forces. But how many monks ride this teleportation array every day? Even if this Jindan trail deducts a little teleportation fee every day, it will be a terrifying number over time. As for the Jindan little Taoist priest, it is even more incredible. His uncle was the one who was responsible for guarding the capital of Su Kingdom and the teleportation formation of Liangjiyuan. As the guardian of the only space teleportation formation in Liangjiyuan and Fenjianji, the name of this monk surnamed Gu, even in the capital of Su Kingdom, is a thunderous existence. As a cultivator at the nascent soul stage, the other party was able to take care of such an important teleportation formation, which shows how high the other party's position in Wujixianmen is. Originally, Qin Daoxian did not understand why a Yuaning cultivator was able to grab a lot of fat that Yuan Qin Daojun couldn't grab. Until he saw this fellow Taoist Gu Leiyun with his own eyes. The third floor of the world. Inside box 12. Qin Daoxian looked at the two monks who pushed in the door and stood up abruptly. So far he finally met a person with the same cultivation base who had a higher Dao realm than him. The cultivator named Gu Leiyun in front of him has reached the third level of the world's realm, the realm of recreating the vitality of the world. Qin Daoxian stared blankly at this fellow Taoist Gu in front of him. He couldn't believe his eyes. Aside. Cultivator Gu surnamed Jindan was not surprised by Qin Daoxian's eyes. As an old fritter who often introduced customers to his uncle, he had seen too many Yuan Jinjuan, and after seeing his uncle he showed a frightened expression. Senior Qin, this is my uncle Gu Leiyun, who is in charge of guarding the space teleportation formation of Liangjiyuan and Fenjianji. Jindan cultivator Gu surnamed introduced, Uncle, this is the senior Qin I told you. After listening to his introduction, both Gu Leiyun and Qin Daoxian were looking at each other. Gu Leiyun was wearing a blue Taoist robe, with some purple lightning patterns embroidered on his Taoist robe, which looked mysterious and unusual. As for Gu Leiyun's appearance, it was rather unremarkable. He was not tall and had a relatively sturdy figure. The only thing worth commending was that the other party's eyes seemed to be very dazzling. Qin Daoxian knew that this was an external manifestation of the power and abnormality of the soul. This proves that this fellow Taoist Gu in front of him, who is about to be unable to restrain his soul that is about to transform, has stepped into the threshold of Yuan Qin Daojun with 1 foot. Qin Daoxian was looking at each other. Gu Leiyun was also looking at Qin Daoxian. Gu Leiyun was very dissatisfied with Qin Daoxian, the cultivator who said before he left that he wanted to jump in the queue to take the space teleportation formation. Although Gu Leiyun is relying on the fat shortage of guarding the space teleportation array to earn cultivation resources, it does not mean that he likes people like Qin Daoxian who do not follow the rules. Even if the price given by Qin Daoxian is very attractive. Friend Qin, Gu Leiyun's voice was like the collision of gold and iron, very infiltrating. Although you are willing to bid 1,000 drops of the power of good fortune in exchange for a place to go to Liangjiyuan, you must know that this time the place to go to Liangjiyuan has already been made. You're jumping in the queue now, which means that I have to remove one fellow Taoist from the full quota. This matter, it's not easy to handle. The elder Gu Leiyun deliberately pulled his voice. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian felt helpless. A space teleportation quota originally only required 50 drops of the power of good fortune, but because he temporarily cut the queue and broke the rules, he spent 20 times the power of good fortune for this. In this way, listening to this Gu Leiyun's tone, it seems that he is not very satisfied. Really greedy? Qin Daoxian secretly said. However, Qin Daoxian said with a smile, Fellow Taoist Gu, forgive me, I retreated at the Feng Lai Inn and I had a feeling for a while, so I spent a little more time, so I missed this queue. He paused, but the 1,000 drops of the power of good fortune are indeed the only power of good fortune left. If fellow Taoists are unwilling, then they will have to wait for the next ride. Speaking of this, Qin Daoxian sighed and seemed to be annoyed that he couldn't go to Liangjiyuan this time. When Qin Daoxian spoke, Gu Leiyun stared at the expression on Qin Daoxian's face. But he watched for a long time, except for the annoyed and painful expression on Qin Daoxian's face, he couldn't see anything else. As the head of the Qin family, Qin Daoxian's own acting skills are naturally qualified. How can a person who guards the space teleportation array all day see the flaws? Seeing that Qin Daoxian couldn't squeeze more oil and water, Gu Leiyun said, Okay, I will make an exception for you. Thank you, fellow Taoist Gu. Qin Daoxian's face changed suddenly, and he immediately bowed his hands to him with a smile. Immediately, Qin Daoxian took out 10 jade bottles from the storage ring, and each jade bottle was filled with the power of good fortune. Gu Leiyun's consciousness was swept away and he immediately smiled. Fellow Taoist Qin is refreshing. This seed is not a person who inks ink, fellow Taoist please take it well. After all, Gu Leiyun took out a blackwood token from the storage ring and handed it to Qin Daoxian. This is the order of the two realms, Gu Leiyun explained. With it you can take the space teleportation formation between Liangjiuan and the capital of Su Kingdom. After explaining, the other party warned again, remember, this space teleportation formation only recognizes tokens and not people, so fellow Taoists must not lose it. Thank you, fellow Taoist Gu, for clarifying the confusion, I already know it. Just after the two of them finished talking, outside the box on the 12th, the servant led a group of maids, knocked on the door and entered the box, and served Qin Daoxian with wine and food. Haven't waited for the food to be served. Gu Leiyun nodded lightly and said, fellow Taoist Qin, enjoy it by yourself, forgive me for not being able to accompany you. After all, regardless of Qin Daoxian's reaction, he disappeared into the box, leaving behind the cultivator Gu surnamed Jin Dan, who looked embarrassed in the box. Senior, forgive me, my uncle is not good at dealing with people, so he... Seeing Qin Daoxian's unkind face, cultivator Gu surnamed Jin Dan complained in his heart. As soon as his uncle left, he was extremely unrestrained, but it was like roasting him on the fire. And looking at his expression, it's not the first time that his uncle has done this kind of thing. Qin Daoxian didn't feel anything about Gu Leiyun's arrogance. A cultivator at the nascent soul stage, the realm of the great Tao is actually higher than him. Although Qin Daoxian took a lot of treasures to quickly improve his cultivation in order to let his cultivation catch up with the Tao realm. But there is no doubt about Gu Leiyun's talent. At least Qin Daoxian has never seen the Yuanying Xinjuan in the third layer realm of the world. This gray cloud is the first. No wonder he was able to occupy the fat gap of the Liangjiuan teleportation formation. In Wuji Xiaoman's point of view, with Gu Leiyun's talent, as long as he does not fall in the future, let alone becoming a 5th-level Taoist in the world, he will be a Taoist in the realm of creation, which is also very hopeful. Inside box 12. The servant led the maid to retreat. Jin Dan cultivator Gu surnamed was sitting like a needle, his uncle disappeared in a teleport, leaving him alone to bear the wrath of a nascent soul true monarch. How could this not make him angry? But no matter how angry he was, he had to quell the anger of Qin Daoxian, who was disgraced. I'll ask you. Cultivator Gu Jin Dan hurriedly bowed down. The capital of Su country has a strict air forbidden formation. Why is your uncle still able to teleport? The forbidden space in the capital of Su country was arranged by my Wuji Xianmen, and naturally it can leave a gap, allowing important people in the door to escape and teleport. Hearing this explanation, Qin Daoxian nodded. As he expected, this forbidden space formation is not effective for everyone. On the other hand, it also proved from the side that this Gu Leiyun status in Wuji Xianmen is no trivial matter. Last question. Cultivator Gu Jin Dan breathed a sigh of relief and cupped his hands. Senior, may I ask? Your uncle's cultivation base is the same as mine, and he is only at the nascent soul stage. Why can the Tao realm reach the 3rd level of the world realm? This is what Qin Daoxian is most puzzled about. According to concubine Chengshi's statement, cultivators in the Yuanying stage can only cultivate to the 2nd floor of the world realm at most. However, Gu Leiyun obviously did not follow this rule that Fei Qinshua said. This undoubtedly made Qin Daoxian very puzzled. Because even with the help of a 100-fold understanding, he knew how difficult it was to condense a real sun star out of thin air in the Shenhuang realm. In other words, this is not something that Yuanying cultivators can do at all. Feeling the difficulties, coupled with Fei Chengshi's remarks, Qin Daoxian gave up the idea of breaking through the 3rd layer of the world. Instead, he chose to first break through the cultivation base to the primordial spirit stage and then improve the Tao realm. In this way, it is undoubtedly much less difficult to improve the realm of the great Tao. But now it seems that it is not necessarily impossible to raise the Tao realm to the 3rd layer of the world realm in the nascent soul stage. Hear this question. Jin Dan cultivator surnamed Gu breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, Senior originally wanted to ask this. It's very simple because my uncle once refined a small piece of golden crow, and then entered the 3rd floor of the world. 7017K. Chapter 438. Golden Crow Fragment again. Inside box 12. Qin Daoxian frowned and said nothing. Seeing that Qin Daoxian didn't speak, the cultivator Gu Jin Dan didn't dare to speak, so he had to wait quietly. A long time. Qin Daoxian waved his hand. Okay, I have nothing to do with you here, you can go. Hear this. Jin Dan cultivator Gu surnamed was granted amnesty, and immediately bowed his hands to Qin Daoxian. Thank you, true monarch Quan Ren, the junior retire. Say it. Cultivator Gu Jin Dan walked out of the box without looking back. The outsiders all left and only Qin Daoxian was left in the box. He glanced at the dazzling array of dishes and delicacies on the wine table, shook his head and said, "The true monarch on the third floor of the world is really arrogant, and he wasted the good wine and dishes on this table." As the country where the Wuji Xianmen sect is located, Su country is far more prosperous than Yun country and Wanxinghai. The capital of Su Kingdom is also the most prosperous fairy city in the entire Su Kingdom. As the leading restaurant in the capital of Su State, Lingxi Lu can be imagined. In order to entertain Gu Leiyun, Qin Daxuangwing spent 10 drops of the power of good fortune. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't appreciate his face, and he left without looking back after receiving the money. Obviously, he didn't want to be associated with an unknown, scattered cultivator, true monarch like Qin Daoxian. However, Gu Leiyun did not appreciate his face, but Qin Daoxian wanted to taste the delicacies of Lingxi Lu. The purpose of coming to the capital of Su Kingdom this time has all been overfulfilled. Originally, I was thinking of going to Liangjiyuan and looking for an alchemist to refine St. Yuan pill, but I didn't think that I didn't need to go to Liangjiyuan. In the Chuanbao Pavilion in the capital of Su Kingdom, there are alchemists who can refine this pill. It saves Qin Daoxian a lot of hard work. Coupled with the Taoist team he purchased, as well as a heavenly secret talisman and information about the heavenly secret talisman, Qin Daoxian's trip was less than 3 years, but he had gained a lot. Right now, as long as you send the of plague in the mysterious realm of Shanshui away, you can leisurely return to Wanxinghai, marry the concubine Qin Shui, and preside over the alliance between the Qin family and the Qin Yuan sword sect. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian only felt that the spirit wine in his mouth was sweeter, and couldn't help but exclaimed, "Good wine!" Time flies by and in the blink of an eye, another year has passed. The main hall of the mysterious realm of Shanshui. Qin Daoxian looked at Wu Mingxiu, who was very respectful in front of him, and said in a flat tone, "I don't know if your so-called going to Liangjiyuan to find treasures to save people is true or not, and I don't care about that. In short, if I take your treasure, I will definitely send you to Liangjiyuan. Say it." Qin Daoxian took out a black token from the storage ring and tossed it gently. The black token immediately flew towards Wu Mingxiu's hand. When Wu Mingxiu saw this token, his face was overjoyed. The members of their Sini sect were shoved by the Wuji immortal sect like a mouse all day long. It was many times more difficult than ordinary monks to obtain these 2 world orders. Usually, these 2 world orders are only issued by Gu Leiyun, who guards the space teleportation array. As for monks whose cultivation base is lower than the nascent soul stage, they are often unable to purchase the order of the 2 realms. In fact, very few monks with a cultivation base lower than the nascent soul stage went to Liangjiyuan. After all, Liangjiyuan is not a safe area, but it is the front line of Fengyun realm and True Demon realm. Going there with a cultivation base lower than the nascent soul stage is really no different from courting death. This is why Qin Daoxian was so surprised when he first heard that Wu Mingxiu was going to Liangjiyuan. After receiving the orders from the 2 realms, Wu Mingxiu showed a look of surprise on his face. He bowed deeply to Qin Daoxian and said, "The kindness of the true monarch is unforgettable for the younger generation. No, we're a fair deal and there's no such thing as kindness or kindness." The expression on Qin Daoxian's face was still cold. Hearing these inhumane words, Wu Mingxiu still showed a grateful expression on his face. Qin Daoxian quietly watched the other party act in front of him, and couldn't help sneering in his heart. But he said, "Don't forget, the space teleportation formation to Liangjiyuan will be opened after a month. Junior dare not forget." Wu Mingxiu bowed again. Seeing his appearance, Qin Daoxian waved his hand and said, "Okay, you go down first, I still need to practice." Yes, the junior retire. Say it. Wu Mingxiu slowly withdrew from the main hall and flew towards his side hall. Out of the main hall, a voice sounded in Wu Mingxiu's sea of consciousness. "This person is quite hidden. Master, what's wrong?" Wu Mingxiu was puzzled. "It's nothing, this person was in the early stage of nascent soul, but this time I observed him and found that his cultivation has actually reached the 9th level of nascent soul." Hiss. Hearing this, Wu Mingxiu took a deep breath. It has only been 3 years, and the other party has been able to advance all the way from the early nascent soul to the late nascent soul. Is this taking Xingyuan Dan? Wu Mingxiu's first reaction was the famous Xingyuan fruit of the Taiyin sect. Speaking out his guess, the leader of Sini sect nodded, "It should be this thing, but he can improve his cultivation from the early nascent soul to the late nascent soul in such a short period of time, and it is not enough to rely on Xingyuan Dan alone. The foundation of the other party is very strong, and it is also appalling, but I don't know which top force he is a disciple of." Wu Mingxiu didn't say a word when he heard the leader's words. Although the sect leader of Sini religion is astonishingly talented, and his own cultivation is even more of a monarch of the primordial spirit, but the teachings of Sini religion doom them to be incompatible with the sect forces in the entire Fengyun realm. Therefore, Sini religion is not only hiding in Wuxia men, but also out of Jianghu, and there is no force that can accommodate them. Even the loose cultivators didn't like this group of people very much. Sect Master, the Qishui Kingdom uprising failed this time, and the strength of my teaching was completely lost. This trip to Liangjiuan is even more uncertain. Hearing Wu Mingxia's dejected words, the leader of Sini sect smiled lightly. Although the Qishui Kingdom uprising failed this time, it also made me see the biggest problem of our Sini sect. Hearing this, Wu Mingxiu was puzzled and said, I also asked the teacher to show me. Mingxiu, what do you think of the people I teach in Jianghu? Wu Mingxiu frowned, and after a while he slowly said, the reputation is extremely bad. It's not easy, it's not easy. The leader of the Sini sect laughed. It's really not easy to get you, the elder of the Sini sect, to say what I have to say about my sect's reputation. The leader of Sini sect paused. You are right, I have a very bad reputation for Sini sect. Even if the sect and the Xiuxin family hate us, even the loose cultivators hate us. Do you know why? There are too many black sheep in our teaching. Wu Mingxiu was decisive. You're right. Before, we only cared about strengthening the power of Sini religion, and we recruited too many desperados. And these people in the loose cultivation are the people who commit murder and evil. How can they implement it when they come to my teaching? My new doctrine? The leader of the Sini religion sighed. The Qishui Kingdom uprising has made me see it clearly. With these people, my Sini religion will never be able to overthrow the sect and the immortal clan that are pressing down on us. Wu Mingxiu nodded in agreement. That's the truth, the sect and the Xiuxin family slaughtered us, and the loose cultivators also excluded us. Our new doctrine is obviously for the loose cultivators in the world, but now it has become a kind of evil cultivator. It's a pity that we understood this truth too late. In addition to the scattered members of Sini religion, now there are only you and me left. No, it should be said that you are the only leader left in Sini religion. My deity has been destroyed and now this body is just a clone after all. Speaking of this, Wu Mingxia's expression was gloomy. No, it's not too late. As long as this trip to the two realms, I can obtain the treasures in the real immortal ruins, everything will be in time. The leader of the Sini sect cheered Wu Mingxiu. With this treasure, we will have enough resources to regroup and overthrow the rule of the sect family. Mingxiu, don't forget, since ancient times, these sects only know how to fight within, not to defend against the enemy. Especially this Wuxia men, which obviously occupies the land of Jianghu with the most abundant resources in the Phoenix Meteor realm, but just doesn't fulfill the duty of resisting the real demon realm, and only knows how to frantically exploit the loose cultivator. The sect family is immortal. Not only will my scattered cultivator never emerge, but the Phoenix Meteor realm is also in danger. These deafening remarks finally made the depressed Wu Mingxiu regain his morale, and his mood was high again. The leader is right. What if the deity is destroyed? My Dao realm is still there. Even with this clone, I can restore my former strength. Hearing this, the leader of Sini sect laughed. A month later, in the capital of Su country, countless escaping shuttles flew towards a huge space in the city. Today it is once every 5 years, the day when the Liangjiuan space teleportation formation is opened. Qin Daoxin and Wu Mingxiu were on an escape shuttle, and both of them remained silent. After about a stick of incense, Qin Daoxin closed his eyes and opened his eyes and said, "We're here, let's go down." Yes. Qin Daoxin got off the escape shuttle, followed by Wu Mingxiu. The two came out of the escaping shuttle. Only then did he realize that under his feet, it was the huge space teleportation formation. The formation base of this space teleportation formation is much larger than the formation base of any space transmission formation Qin Daoxin has ever seen. Look around. There are at least hundreds of thousands of people standing on this formation. As the saying goes, as soon as people pass the sea of 10,000 people, hundreds of thousands of people stand in the same space teleportation array, which shows how big the scope of this space teleportation array is. Hundreds of thousands of people gathered together, and there was only a buzzing sound in Qin Daoxuan's ears. Seeing this, he waved his hand and a soundproof cover was put down by him, and his ears were immediately clean. Not long after he put the soundproof cover on, a familiar voice passed through the soundproof cover and entered Qin Daoxuan's ears. It was the voice of Gu Leiyun, the guardian of this space teleportation array. Everyone, the 5-yearly two-world teleportation formation is about to open. Please prepare yourself. The monks who have the two-world order, Please take out your two-world order. Hear this. Everyone took out black tokens from various storage instruments. Looking at the true monarch Yuan Ying holding the black token in front of him, Qin Daoxian knew why Gu Leiyun was so arrogant. Without him, this guy is too rich. Leaving aside the Wuji immortal sect behind him, Qin Daoxian didn't even know how much money this guy was greedy for relying on this space to teleport the formation. According to the quotation of Jindan cultivator surnamed Gu, the price of one order of the two realms is 50 drops of the power of creation. Qin Daoxian didn't know how many drops of the 50 drops of the power of creation would be collected by Wuji Xianmen, but it was absolutely impossible to collect them all. Even if the 50 drops of the power of good fortune were received by the Wuji Xianmen 49 drops, Gu Leiyun only covets 1 drop of ink, and hundreds of thousands of true monarchs are also hundreds of thousands of drops of the power of good fortune. What about 10 drops? That's not millions of good fortune? When Qin Daoxian thought of this, his heart could not help twitching. Darling, he originally thought that he had the Aoki Ding production line, and it was exaggerated enough to extract 200,000 drops of the power of creation a year. Unexpectedly, the speed at which Gu Leiyun made money was no less than that of him now. Of course, it's just him now. Qin Daoxian, who mastered the industrial production of Qingmu Ding, will have the power of good fortune in the future, which is unimaginable for outsiders. Not to mention that Gu Leiyun earns millions of drops of the power of creation in 5 years, he earns millions or even tens of millions of drops of the power of creation in a year, and is not in the eyes of Qin Daoxian. Because compared with Qingmu Ding's automatic refining of the power of good fortune, the power of good fortune earned by Gu Leiyun is really nothing. At the moment when everyone took out the black token, the space teleportation array made a rumbling sound. Immediately afterwards, rays of light lit up and connected together at the feet of Qin Daoxian and others. Formation started. Compared with the space teleportation formation that Qin Daoxian used to ride, the speed of this cross-border teleportation formation seems to be extremely slow. Qin Daoxian waited for half a cup of tea. It finally connected all the light into one piece. Just when the formation light was connected, the monks holding the black tokens were covered with a transparent film, except for Qin Daoxian. Senior Yu. Aside, Wu Mingxiu looked at him in surprise. Just now, Qin Daoxian didn't take out the black token, he just thought that Qin Daoxian was pretending to be cold, but he didn't expect that the other party didn't have the order of the two realms. Didn't you go to Liangjiyuan to search for treasures to save people? I'll fulfill you and give you my Liangjia order. Hear this. Wu Mingxiu's chest kept rising and falling. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in front of Qin Daoxian. It is the leader of the Sini religion who is hiding in the Dongtian artifact. Wu Mingxiu handed him the order of the two realms in his hand, and the leader of Sini sect nodded to Wu Mingxiu, then looked at Qin Daoxian, cupped his hands and said, "How did fellow Taoist find out?" "It was my first time out of the mysterious realm of Shenshui, and I set up a formation. Also, is the Taoist primordial spirit who created chaos in the city that time also you?" "Fellow Taoist is thoughtful, and I admire him." The leader of Sini religion cupped his hands. "However, I think fellow Taoists may have misunderstood my Sini religion. We are not the evil cultivators preached by Wuji Xianmen." "I know," Qin Daoxian nodded, "but whether you are evil or not has nothing to do with me, and I don't want to get involved in the grievances between you and Wuji Xianmen. Taoist friends' concerns can be understood by me, but I still want to invite Taoist friend to go to Liangjiyuan to explore the ruins of the true immortal." Hear this. Qin Daoxian frowned. "Look for me to explore the ruins of the true immortal?" He seemed to think of something and he immediately reacted, "You mean the heavenly secret talisman is the key to this true immortal ruins?" "Exactly." The sect leader of Sini sect glanced at the formation of light that was completely connected under his feet. "Time is running out. If fellow Taoists want to explore this true immortal ruin with Xia Xia, they can go to the Acropolis of Tianzuan City Tianlan in 5 years. The city is looking for me." Tianlan City. Qin Daoxian repeated. Chat room. The formation was completely activated, and all the monks holding the two world orders disappeared in front of Qin Daoxian. The formation base suddenly exuded a violent high temperature, and the water vapor in the air was transpired into a vast expanse of white. Across the water vapor, Qin Daoxian looked at Wu Mingxiu with a faint smile on his face. "Dao Yu Wu is so deceiving, don't you want to explain it to me?" Wu Mingxiu was very calm and he smiled and said, "I hope fellow Taoists forgive me for my helpless act." 7017K. Chapter 439. Lingxi Building Box. A wisp of aroma escaping with the poured tea. "Please." Wu Mingxiu picked up the teacup and respectfully handed it to Qin Daoxian. Chen Daoxian took the teacup, took a sip, put down the teacup and said, "You are so blatantly revealing your identities in front of me, aren't you afraid that I will expose you to Wuji Xianmen?" "Of course I'm afraid," Wu Mingxiu said with a smile. "However, for exposing us, how much benefit will it be to you, Dao Yuqin? Although Xianyunzhu has a vast territory, its essence is still the land of Zhongzhou occupied by Wuji Xianmen. In recent years, Wuji Xianmen has not been able to expand outside. In addition to the large amount of resources in the state, it also has the merits of my new doctrine. From this point of view, the faction that you belong to, fellow Taoist, can be considered to take advantage of my new doctrine. As a fellow Taoist, you won't be able to avenge your kindness and revenge, right?" "Fellow Taoist Wu is very articulate," Qin Daoxian snorted. "If I guessed correctly, you have been following me from the moment I set foot in the capital of Su country?" "That's right," Wu Mingxiu nodded. "The leader holds the core components of the heavenly secret talisman. Fellow Taoist Qin carries the heavenly mystery talisman with him, and the leader can naturally sense fluctuations." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian nodded suddenly. "So it is," he said again. "That's why you guys just planned on it and wanted to use the heavenly secret talisman to trick me into sending you to Liangjiyuan, and then take the opportunity to kill me and explore the ruins of the true immortal?" This time Wu Mingxiu shook his head unceasingly. "Young Taoist Qin misunderstood. My Sini sect is not an evil cultivator, so how can we kill innocent people? It is indeed wrong for us to use fellow Taoists to go to Liangjiyuan, but the leader and I have absolutely no intention of killing fellow Taoists by taking the opportunity." Chen Daoxian stared at each other's eyes, and Wu Mingxiu looked at him frankly. "A long time." Chen Daoxian said, "Even if you don't have the idea of killing people and stealing treasures, it is an indisputable fact that your Sini sect uses me. As for whether to cooperate with you, I have to think about it carefully." Hearing this, Wu Mingxiu sighed and nodded. "I can understand the thoughts of fellow Taoists, but the treasures in this true immortal ruins are no trivial matter, and this is not the first time I have explored new doctrines. It can be said that if you want to explore this real immortal ruins, it is the best choice to cooperate with our Sini religion." This time Qin Daoxian was taken aback. "You mean this true immortal ruins have already been explored?" "Of course, well-preserved relics of true immortals are very rare even in Liangjiyuan. These relics of true immortals have naturally been explored." Wu Mingxiu nodded as a matter of course. "But fellow Taoists, don't worry, the real immortal ruins we're going to explore, even if we look at the entire Liangjiyuan, are among the top 3 existences. Although it has been explored by many people, it is mostly on the fringes, and the core area has never been entered." "Since the core area is unexplored, how can you enter?" Qin Daoxian sneered. "Could it be that your Sini sect did what the top forces in the Fengyun world couldn't do? Taoist words are not good enough." Wu Mingxiu shook his head. "In terms of strength, I naturally do not dare to compare with the top forces, but to explore the ruins of the true immortal, strength is not an absolute factor. In addition to strength, chance and luck are the most important. If a monk wants to enter the core area, he must master the core components of the heavenly secret talisman. This is the key to unlocking the core area of the true immortal ruins. That's why I said that if you want to explore this true immortal ruins, it is best to cooperate with us. Choose." This time, Qin Daoxian finally knew why the other party was so confident, and after he understood everything he would choose to cooperate with the other party. "The last question, why did you choose me?" "I never thought of choosing a fellow Taoist, but simply wanted to use the hands of a fellow Taoist to go to Liangjiyuan. After all, we are currently wanted by Wuji Xianmen, and we can't take the space teleportation array to Liangjiyuan normally. However, the sect master finally chose fellow Taoists because of the strength of fellow Taoists." Saying that, the other party glanced at the bronze bead on Qin Daoxian's right wrist, intentionally or unintentionally. Feeling Wu Mingxiu's gaze, Qin Daoxian froze in his heart. This person's eyes are really vicious. It can be seen that this person's cultivation is by no means as simple as he looks on the surface. Qin Daoxian didn't believe that a cultivator of the Purple House period could have such insight. After being silent for a while, Qin Daoxian nodded and said, "I need to think carefully about exploring the ruins of the true immortal." "It's okay," Wu Mingxiu smiled and handed a jade talisman. "This is my communication talisman. If fellow Taoists decide to cooperate with my Sini sect, they can find me in 5 years." "It is good." Qin Daoxian nodded. Wu Mingxiu raised the teacup, replaced the wine with tea and drank it all in one go. Then he put down the teacup, strode out of the box and left the Lingxi building. Watching Wu Mingxiu leave, Qin Daoxian also drank the spirit tea in his hand, and gradually made a decision in his heart. Tianyinzong, Thousand Array City. The space teleportation array continued to flicker, and finally, a figure appeared in the space teleportation array. The Tianyinzong cultivator who was on duty saw someone walking out of the space teleportation formation. First, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief, and immediately took out a communication jade talisman and quickly reported it to the sect. Although Tianyinzong had a teleportation formation connected to the capital of Su Kingdom, this teleportation formation was rarely activated. Before Qin Daoxian went to the capital of Su Kingdom, this space teleportation array had not been used for hundreds of years. First, Tianyinzong is located in the northwest border of Xianyunzhu, which is extremely far away from Zhongzhou, and the teleportation array is expensive. Secondly, the strength of Tianyinzong is too weak, and the capital of Su Kingdom is one of the largest immortal cities in the jurisdiction of Wuxia. There, the mere nascent soul monks are nothing at all. Even if the ordinary Yuanshan Daojun went there, he had to be a low-key person without the slightest privilege. Tianyinzong is also the leading force in the northwest frontier of Xianyun continent, so why bother going to that place to be uncomfortable? In addition, when Qinyuan Jianzong responded to the call of Tianzuan City, he raised his sect to help Liangjiyuan, but it ended up losing even the foundation of the sect. This change made the disciples of Tianyinzong in all dynasties tremble at the other side of the space teleportation formation. Even if there are disciples in the sect who choose to experience, they will choose to go to other places instead of taking this teleportation array to the capital of Su Kingdom. But this situation has changed since Qin Daoxian took the teleportation array to the capital of Su country 3 years ago. Received a message from the disciples in the door. Soon a figure appeared in front of Qin Daoxian. It was the suzerain of Tianyinzong Zhou Chongshan. See Qin Daoxian. Zhou Chongshan's face changed constantly and he looked like he was hesitating to speak, but he finally bowed his hands to Qin Daoxian and said, "I have seen Qin Daoxian. Fellow Taoist Zhou this is." Qin Daoxian looked puzzled. "Fellow Taoist Qin, you'd better go back to Wanxinghai and take a look." "Heard." Qin Daoxian's complexion changed suddenly. He ignored etiquette and grabbed Zhou Chongshan's sleeve. He said with a gloomy expression, "What happened to Wanxinghai?" Zhou Chongshan sighed and explained the ins and outs of the matter. Wanxinghai. Qinyuan Sword Sect. A figure instantly appeared in the space teleportation formation of Qinyuan Jianzong. Before the disciples guarding the teleportation formation could identify Qin Daoxian's identity, Qin Daoxian's figure immediately disappeared. In the sky, an escaping light flew towards the cave where Fei Qinshua lived. Boom! The door of a majestic palace was violently pushed open by Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian was full of anger and strode into the hall. Inside the hall, a woman in white is sitting in front of the guqin, stroking the strings. Hearing the huge movement of the temple door being pushed open, the woman in white who fell into contemplation slowly raised her head. Seeing Qin Daoxian appear in front of her, the surprise in Fei Chengshi's eyes flashed away. But then she saw the anger on Qin Daoxian's face. Dong dong dong. Qin Daoxian walked towards her step by step. As Qin Daoxian approached, Fei Qinshua felt a huge pressure on her weak body. It seems that these days have suffered too many grievances. Sudden. A line of clear tears slid down her pretty face. Seeing this line of clear tears, the anger in Qin Daoxian's chest was instantly extinguished. He stepped forward, stretched out his hand and gently wiped away the tears from Fei Qinzuikio's face and said, "I heard that you are going to marry a direct disciple of Wu Jixianmen, is that true?" Fei Chengshi's eyes were red and she nodded slightly. He came for Emperor Yes Bell? Qin Daoxian could not have imagined that, apart from this, Wanxinghai had any other treasures that could attract a direct disciple of Wu Jixianmen. You must know that those who can become direct disciples of Wuji Immortal Sect are at least at the primordial spirit stage. Moreover, according to the agreement reached between Tianzuan City and Wu Jixianmen, all Yuanshan monks of Wu Jixianmen will be sent to Liangjiyuan to serve, and the service period is 500 years. Therefore, many direct disciples who have reached the primordial spirit stage will go to great lengths to find something to protect the Tao, in order to prevent accidents in the battlefield outside the two realms abyss. After all, the foreign battlefield is extremely dangerous. There is no world monster that will give face to the human race cultivator. When the two meet, either you die or I live. And the Emperor Yu Bel of the Qinyuan Sword Sect is a well-preserved pure yang fairy. Qin Daoxian had already seen the horror of its power. It can be said that with this treasure, a Yuanshan Daojun on the 3rd floor of the world realm can burst into strength comparable to the Daojun on the 5th floor of the world realm. This shows the power of the pure yang immortal artifact. Such a treasure was known to the disciples of the Wuxia immortal sect who were about to go to the battlefield outside the two realms. Is there any reason not to it? Although Qinzuan City clearly forbids the infighting of the forces of Fenjianji Zongmen. However, with the strength of the opponent, it is easy to deal with a second-rate force that even a primordial spirit cultivator does not have. To deal with Qianyuan sword sect, the other party doesn't need to make a big deal at all. Fei Qinshui red eyes nodded. They captured Qin Zhan. I really have no choice, I can only agree for the time being. Qin Zhan was brought up by Fei Qinshui since she was a child, and towards Qin Zhan, Fei Qinshui has always regarded her as her own. Although the two are called brothers and sisters, they are more like mother and son. If the other party kidnapped Qin Zhan, concubine Qinshui would naturally be in a mess. This time it was different from Qin Zhan's order to raid the Qingwei Taoist sect. When Qin Zhan sneaked up on the Qingwei Taoist sect, his own strength had already reached the world realm, which was comparable to Yi Tianqi's strength. With Qin Zhan's strength, even if the raid failed, he would have no problem escaping for his life. But this time is different. Qin Zhan was captured by Yuanshin Daojun, and the opponent's strength far surpassed Qin Zhan. If concubine Qinshui did not agree to the opponent's request, she was sure that Qin Zhan would definitely die. In desperation, Fei Qinshui could only agree temporarily. Who is he, what is his strength, and where is he now? Qin Daoxian asked 3 questions in a row. The person sent by the other party is named Xian Yi, wearing black armor. He is the second-level Taoist of the world. Concubine Qinshui paused. He is now at your Qin house. After arresting Qin Zhan, he swaggered to live in Chen's house. He thought that the other party knew about the marriage of Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinshui. Right. The story of Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshui getting married has long been spread all over Wanxinghai. The other party knew about this and it was reasonable. Now that the other party is doing this, it is to clearly tell Qin Daoxian that concubine Chengshi's master is going to be fixed, and Yu Huangzhong is a dowry. If it were an ordinary nascent soul true monarch facing this kind of enemy, he could only recognize it by pinching his nose. But Qin Daoxian is not. Not to mention that he now has a Taoist team that is comparable to the third-layer Taoist in the world. Even if Qin Daoxian has nothing, he dares to ask the other party to let go. Even if the second-level Daojun of the mere world realm is stronger than him, he is not unsure about joining forces with concubine Qinshui. After all, Qin Daoxuan's Dao realm is the same as the other parties, and the only difference is the gap between the two. But Qin Daoxian has a lot of cards, and if he fights to the death, he is not without a chance. Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian was a little fortunate. He was fortunate that he had chosen to buy a Taoist team instead of Tianhua Yulu, otherwise he would have to fight the opponent himself now. To be honest, although Qin Daoxian has a little bit of confidence, he is not very confident. In particular, the other party's Dao realm is the same as his. Qin Daoxian knew the location of the other party, turned around and left without saying a word. Fei Qinshui grabbed him and shook her head with red eyes. Don't go to death. Qin Daoxian slowly turned his head, stared at her and said coldly, I'm going to kill. Say it. Qin Daoxuan's figure instantly disappeared in front of her. Watching Qin Daoxian leave, Fei Qinshui couldn't sit still any longer, and immediately turned into a light and flew towards Zhangzhou. Fei Qinshui did not comprehend the laws of space, so she could only fly away. Qin Daoxian did not have this trouble. His current range of divine consciousness has reached more than 30,000 miles, and the distance of each teleportation is almost equal to the range covered by divine consciousness. In other words, he can now teleport more than 30,000 miles at a time. And Qianyuan Jianzong Zongmen is only 1,000,000 miles away from Zhangzhou. If you perform teleportation, you only need a few dozen times and you will be able to arrive. Continuously teleport dozens of times. Qin Daoxian finally set foot on the boundary of Guang'an Prefecture. Looking at the familiar scenery in front of him, Qin Daoxian couldn't care to appreciate it. The figure flashed and disappeared again. Twin Lakes Island. Patriarch Immortal Mansion. A black-armored cultivator sat on the stone bench. Beside him sat a pale young cultivator, not Qin Zhan or anyone else. I advise you to stop struggling. Although you and I are both in the world, your Dao realm is one level worse than mine, and your cultivation is even worse by a big realm. Do you still want to run? Humph. The black-armored cultivator snorted coldly and then persuaded, I know that your talent is good. If your sister and brother are loyal to my young master, breaking through the primordial spirit period is just around the corner. The black-armored cultivator was about to continue his persuasion. Suddenly he sensed something and stood up abruptly, looking at the air ahead. Next moment, 100 feet in front of him, the space quickly fluctuated like a stream of water. Immediately afterwards, a figure appeared in an instant. Seeing the person coming, Qin Zhan's expression brightened. But then, Qin Zhan's complexion collapsed, because he found that Qin Daoxian did not break through to the Yuanshan stage. Although his cultivation has improved a lot, he is only the same as him only in the late Yuanying period. Qin Daoxian run! Qin Zhan shouted. 7017K. Chapter 440? Qin Daoxian turned a deaf ear to Qin Zhan's warning. He stared straight at the black-armored cultivator and said coldly, "You are Xianyi Xiao Yuhua's dog?" Xiao Yuhua was the direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen who wanted to forcefully marry his concubine Qin Shui and win Emperor Yes Bel. It was rumored that he had the strength of a Taoist on the third or fourth floor of the world. Qin Daoxian doesn't know the specific realm, but there is absolutely no fifth layer of the world realm. As for the black-armored cultivator in front of him, his strength is much weaker. He is only a second-level Taoist in the world. With a team of 5 Taoist soldiers in his hand, Qin Daoxian was confident of winning against him. Therefore, in the face of Qin Zhan's warning, he was naturally indifferent. The black-armored cultivator looked at Qin Daoxian and said slowly, "You are Qin Daoxian, and you have only reached the second level of the world realm in the late Yuanying cultivation base. I have to say that this little Wan Xinghai is really capable. Actually, let me meet 2 talented geniuses in a row." The other genius in his mouth was naturally Fei Qinshui, who had also reached the second floor of the world realm. It is not uncommon to see a true monarch on the first level of the world realm in Wuji Xianmen. Even the black-armored cultivator himself first reached the first level of the world realm, and then broke through to the primordial spirit stage. The second-level real monarch of the world realm is different. Being able to reach the second level of the world realm at the nascent soul cultivation realm meant that the cultivator had a very high level of comprehension, so he could comprehend the Tao so smoothly. This also means that the cultivator has a high potential. At least in the eyes of Wuji Xianmen, once this kind of monk breaks through to the Yuanshan stage in the future, it is a sure thing to reach the third layer of the world realm, and even this kind of monk is very likely to become the fifth layer of the world realm. Daojun. As for whether he can achieve the Daojun of the creation realm or even the heavenly venerate, it depends on the cultivator's own fortune. After all, every transcending tribulation heavenly venerate can support a top power. The existence of this level is no longer a gift that can be achieved. Even if it is a genius like Qin Daoxian, outsiders only think that he has a great chance to become the Tianzuan of transcending tribulations, but no one can guarantee that he will definitely become the Tianzuan of transcending tribulations. In Wuji Xianmen, once any nascent soul cultivator can break through to the second floor of the world, he will be established as a direct disciple, and the status is equal to the elder of Wuji Xianmen. This is why, although Gu Lian's cultivation is only at the third level of the world realm, he can become the guardian of the teleportation array of the 2 realms abyss. The second-level real monarch of the world can be established as a direct disciple of the Wuji Xianmen, and the third-level real monarch of the world can imagine how much the Wuji Xianmen has a treasure. Don't look at Xiao Yes incarnation as a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen, and he is arrogant when facing a second-rate sect like Chenyuan Zhenzong, but he is really not enough to look at a genius like Gu Leiyun. Facing Gu Leiyun, Qin Daoxian did not have much psychological weakness, let alone Xiao Yuhua, the lackey of a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen. Stop talking nonsense, you can't use it here. If you have the guts, go to the endless void with me. Qin Daoxian said, and with a void black hole with a diameter of about 10 meters appeared in front of him. Immediately after, he stepped forward and walked into the void black hole. The black-armored cultivator naturally wouldn't feel afraid when facing a nascent soul cultivator, not to mention that the nascent soul cultivator's Dao realm was comparable to him. Even if Qin Daoxian holds the pure yang immortal artifact, how much power can he exert with his cultivation? Therefore, the black-armored cultivator was not afraid at all. As for the treasures of Taoist guards like Taoist soldiers, it is not that the black-armored cultivator has not considered it, but the price of Taoist soldiers is so high. Not to mention Qin Daoxian, even his master has not been able to gather a team of Dao soldiers so far. The other party is even more impossible. Wan Xinghai, a cultivator from a remote rural area, isn't even richer than his master, the protege of Wuji Xianmen, right? The black-armored cultivator thought, shook his head mockingly and tore it at will, and a void black hole with a diameter of several meters appeared in front of him. Before walking into the black hole of the void, the black-armored cultivator turned his head and warned Qin Zhan, "If you don't want me to step down the Qinyuan sword sect, just stay here." Hearing this, Qin Zhan clenched his fist tightly, his face changed wildly, and finally, he lowered his head unwillingly. Seeing Qin Zhan give in, The black-armored cultivator nodded with satisfaction and strode into the void black hole. As the black-armored cultivator stepped into it, the void black hole slowly closed and finally disappeared. Endless void darkness. Only the nearby Fengyun Great World exudes a splendid brilliance, reflecting on the faces of the two. Qin Daoxian and the black-armored cultivator volleyed against each other. Looking at Qin Daoxian, the black-armored cultivator said slowly, "Although I don't know why you have the courage to challenge me, I will let you." Taoist. 1, 2, 3. The black-armored cultivator looked at Qin Daoxian surrounded by the center, and there were 5 one-star soldiers, almost scared to the sky. Fellow Taoist, misunderstanding. It's all misunderstanding. The black-armored cultivator stretched out his hands and stepped back unconsciously. "I don't know which senior's disciple you are. I have offended you a lot this time, and I hope you will forgive me." The black-armored cultivator no longer had the arrogant face he just had, and confessed on the spot. If it weren't for the shame, he would have wanted to kowtow to Qin Daoxian and apologize. Although the 5 Taoist soldiers in front of Qin Daoxian were only one-star Taoist soldiers, these 5 Taoist soldiers looked like a complete Taoist team. A complete Taoist team and a single Taoist soldier, the combat power that can erupt is completely different. Qin Daoxian's 5 Taoist soldiers were all inspired by 6th-order low-grade puppets. Perhaps the quality of the 5 6th-order low-grade puppets was limited, and the enlightened Taoist soldiers only reached the level of 1 star. 1-star Taoist soldiers, divided according to their strength, can only be compared to the first-level Taoist monks in the world, that is, the monks who have just broken through the Yuanshan period. Actually, whether it is a 1-star Taoist soldier or a 2-star Taoist soldier, the difference in strength is not too big. The real strength to widen the gap is the 3-star Taoist soldiers, whose strength is equivalent to the 3rd-level Taoist monk of the world of the human race monks. Of course, the price of Samsung Taoist soldiers is even higher. But after the efforts of countless refiners, they finally came up with another solution. That is, even if they don't have the strength of the 3-star Taoist soldiers, they can use the superposition of the formation and the number of Taoist soldiers to exert the strength comparable to the 3-star Taoist soldiers. This is the Taoist squad. In other words, the Taoist team in front of Qin Daoxian is almost as powerful as Xiao Yuhua. How can he dare to fight against a 2nd-level Taoist in the world? He came to carry out the master's orders, yes, but not to die. In front of him, Qin Daoxian was protected by this Taoist team, and even if he wanted to behead it, he couldn't do it. He carefully looked at the Taoist team in front of Qin Daoxian, and found that there were actually 2 Taoist soldiers inside, holding a diamond-shaped giant shield comparable to the size of a door. Obviously, these 2 Taoist soldiers were specially used to protect the master of the Taoist soldiers. "I'm so afraid of death." The black-armored cultivator cursed inwardly. A mere nascent soul cultivator, even if there is a Taoist squad, it is still a defensive Taoist squad. Generally speaking, there is only 1 Taoist soldier in a Taoist team dedicated to defense, while Qin Daoxian's Taoist team has 2. Is this not afraid of death? In the face of the black armor cultivators begging for mercy, Qin Daoxian was unmoved. He stretched out his hand and pointed at the black-armored cultivator and said, "Kill him." Hear the order. The nameless Taoist soldiers acted immediately. Of the 5 Taoist soldiers, 4 stayed where they were, and 1 directly held a giant sword and killed the black-armored cultivator. See, the black-armored cultivator knew that he couldn't be good today, so he stopped begging for mercy, and instead displayed the Dharma image, and his body grew rapidly. 100 zhang, 200 zhang, 300 zhang. In an instant, the black-armored cultivator became a giant over 2,000 feet tall. This Taoist soldier who attacked with a sword was as small as an ant in front of the giant of more than 2,000 feet. But it was this ant that threatened the black armor cultivator with death. The black-armored cultivator felt that the Taoist soldier who was killing him in front of him contained at least 90% of the power of the unknown Taoist soldier. This is the terrible thing about the Taoist squad, which can borrow each other's strength. Whether it is offense or defense, with the cooperation of the formation, it can skyrocket nearly 5 times. It is precisely because of this hand that the 1-star Taoist team can worthy of the strength of the 3-star Taoist. Escape. Can't resist. Seeing the soldier in front of him holding a giant sword as small as a toothpick, the black-armored cultivator could no longer restrain his fear. Really? The sword of the offensive Taoist soldier swelled violently when it approached the body of the black-armored cultivator. In an instant, the sword that was originally 7 feet long turned into a giant sword that was thousands of feet long. A Taoist soldier of normal size holding a giant sword that is thousands of feet long. This scene is somewhat inconsistent. But in the hands of the offensive Taoist soldiers, This giant sword is like an embroidery needle, and it is extremely easy to use. Great swordsmanship. And it is a combination of great swordsmanship and melee combat. Qin Daoxian recognized the spell cast by this offensive Taoist soldier at a glance. Previously, Fairy Nishang of Chuanbao Pavilion said that Dao soldiers and ordinary monks are no different, and they are good at using various magic powers. It's just that Taoist soldiers like ordinary monks have limited energy, and there are often not many spells that they can specialize in, which is why the Taoist team was born later. In the face of this attack that was 5 times that of an ordinary 1-star Taoist soldier, the black armored cultivator panicked instantly. Can't stop. His mind was madly warning, but in the face of this sword, his whole body seemed to be suppressed by a huge pressure, unable to move. This is... The black armored cultivator lowered his head and looked at a Taoist soldier who surrounded Qin Daoxian in the center. It's a domain-type Taoist soldier. The black armored cultivator's heart was bleak. Brush. The 1,000-foot-long giant sword slashed across the black armored cultivator's head. His body of more than 2,000 feet was directly beheaded. The next moment, the Dharma image of the black armored cultivator radiated countless light spots, and then dissipated. With just one sword, the Dharma image and body of the black armored cultivator were severely damaged. See? The primordial spirit of the black armored cultivator jumped suddenly and jumped out of his body. Compared with the nascent soul of the nascent soul cultivator, the primordial spirit of the black armored cultivator is much larger, almost half his height. Not only that, Yuaning wandered outside the body for a long time, and there was a danger that the soul would collapse. But the cultivation base has reached the Yuanshan stage, and the soul has been transformed further, and it is already possible to achieve the imaginary wandering, and there is no more stagnation. However, the premise of Yuanshan cultivator wandering too far is that he has not encountered an enemy. Otherwise, without physical protection, the primordial spirit is actually very weak, at least far from being an opponent of the same level of enemy. The black armored cultivator has come to this step, but it is also helpless. Because if he doesn't get out of his body, he will be hacked to death by this Taoist soldier with a sword. Although the body of the black armored cultivator is strong, and even he is wearing a 6th-order low-grade spirit armor, he still can't stop the attack of the soldier in front of him. Too fierce. As expected of a guardian of the road. The black armored cultivator screamed in his heart and fled frantically. But after escaping for a long time, he found himself spinning in place. This? The black armored cultivator raised his head and found that around him, there was actually a river of light flowing rapidly. This is the power of time and space. As Yuanshan Daojun, his knowledge is not shallow. At a glance, he recognized the long river of time and space displayed by Qin Daoxian with the help of the 9 palaces array. Compared with directly killing the enemy, it is a must to trap and defend the enemy in the Jiogong formation. Especially in the long river of time and space, Qin Daoxian just used it to surround the primordial spirit of the black armored cultivator. No matter how the other party escaped, he could only spin around in the long river of time and space, which looked very funny. After trying various means, the black armored cultivator finally gave up. He looked up at Qin Daoxian, his eyes were full of resentment, but he quickly subsided. Fellow Taoist, now that my body is destroyed, the anger in your heart should be out. Anyway, I am also a disciple of Wu Jixianmen, and Taoist does not want to be an enemy of Wu Jixianmen, right? The black armored cultivator suppressed the anger in his heart and said calmly. In desperation, the black armored cultivator could only move to the last backer. He knew that Xiao Yuhua could not be mentioned now, and he could only use Wu Jixianmen as an example. He hoped that the other party would forgive him once for the sake of Wu Jixianmen disciple. Sure enough, after Qin Daoxian heard this, he ordered the soldiers to stop. Seeing Qin Daoxian stop attacking, the black armored cultivator breathed a sigh of relief. Since there is an expert behind you, Taoist friend, we have admitted it this time, and Taoist friend, don't worry, this time I came to Wanxinghai, but I came here under the secret order of the master. Outsiders do not know that Qinyuan Jianzong owns the pure yang immortal artifact. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian said calmly, how did you know that my Qinyuan sword sect has a pure yang fairy weapon? It's what Yi Tianqi, the leader of the Shenqing Dao Alliance, said. The black armored cultivator sold Yi Tianqi on the spot. In fact, he hated each other so much now that if he hadn't provided information indiscriminately, he wouldn't have ended up in the field where he is today. The physical body is destroyed. Even if he finds a way to reunite the physical body in the future, the road has basically come to an end. The road is destroyed. How can the black armored cultivator not hate it? To say who he hates the most now, the number one is naturally Qin Daoxian, who destroyed his body, and the second is Yi Tianqi. Yi Tianqi. Qin Daoxian nodded. Understood, you can die. Fellow Taoist, wait. Ah. I saw a black flame like ink flying straight into the long river of time and space, burning the primordial spirit of the black-armored cultivator. Although the opponent's soul has undergone a transformation, it is no longer afraid of ordinary damage. But Qin Daoxuan's fire of gods and demons is not ordinary. As early as when he had just refined the indestructible true meaning, the demon god's fire was comparable to the infant fire. Now that Qin Daoxuan's physical body has stepped into the threshold of condensing the indestructible real body with 1 foot, the fire of the devil has been further strengthened. Qin Daoxian even found that there was a little purple light in the center of the fire of the devil, which could not be seen clearly. It can be seen that the power of his demon god's fire has skyrocketed by another level. Using this kind of spiritual fire to burn the primordial spirit of the black-armored cultivator, there is no reason for the other party not to lose his soul. The screams only lasted for a few breaths. The black-armored cultivator Xian Yi was completely wiped out. Chapter 441. Twin Lakes Island. Patriarch Immortal Mansion. A void channel suddenly appeared. In the void passage, a white figure slowly walked out. It was Qin Daoxian. Seeing Qin Daoxian come back alone, Qin Zhan's pale face suddenly showed a look of joy. He knew that Qin Daoxian must have won. What about people? Qin Zhan said impatiently. Burned. Burn? Qin Zhan was stunned, not knowing how to answer. Qin Daoxian said to himself, let's wait here for a while, your senior sister should be here in a while. Qin Daoxian understood the laws of space and was able to teleport, but Fei Qianxue had no such ability. Qianyuan Jianzong is 1,000,000 miles away from Chen's house, and the other party has to spend time flying over. Although Fei Qianxue's strength has reached the level of a second-layer real monarch in the world, and her escaping speed is much faster than that of the ordinary nascent soul real monarch, but at a distance of millions of miles, the other party has to spend a stick of incense to get there. From this, we can see how fast Qin Daoxian solved the black-armored cultivator, and it took less than a stick of incense. While the two were talking, a ray of light flew towards the two of them at a high speed. Qin Daoxian waved his hand, and the mountain protection formation dissipated instantly. When the light of escape descended, it was Fei Qianxue. Fei Qianxue saw Qin Daoxian, but did not see the black-armored cultivator. She had a vague guess in her heart, and she immediately breathed a sigh of relief. What about the others? Died. Qin Daoxian said calmly. Hearing this, Fei Qianxue frowned, and immediately her brows stretched, and speaking, although the black-armored cultivator was strong, it was not strong enough to make Fei Qianxue feel hopeless. With the strengths of her and Qin Zhan, they will definitely not be able to fight against each other, but they can choose to leave the Qianyuan sword sect with Yu Huangzhong. What really troubled Fei Qianxue were Xiao Yuhua and Wu Jixianmen behind the black-armored cultivator. As the suzerain of Qianyuan sword sect, Fei Qianxue knew better than Qin Daoxian how strong Wu Jixianmen really was. Wu Jixianmen is not like ordinary first-class forces. There are only 1 or 2 Yuanshan Daojun in the door. Although concubine Qianxue didn't know how many Yuanshan's engines there were in Wu Jixianmen, the other party definitely had Creation Realm Daojun, and there was more than one. Possessing the Daojun of Creation Realm means that Wu Jixianmen has its own army of Dao soldiers. If the Dao protection team is for ordinary monks to protect Dao, then the Dao soldier army is to protect Dao for the sect of Wu Jixianmen. From this point of view, Wu Jixianmen has already stepped into the threshold of top power, and it is by no means comparable to ordinary first-class sections. Killing the black-armored cultivator is already considered a revenge with Wu Jixianmen. A revenge is a revenge. On the side, Qin Zhan said angrily, it's a big deal, let's retreat to the real demon world. I don't believe it, Wu Jixianmen dares to chase to the real demon realm. Say something mad. Concubine Qianxue glared at Qin Zhan, then turned to look at Qin Daoxian. Qin Lang, what do you think? After pondering for a moment, Qin Daoxian said, I think Xiao Yuhua will suppress this matter. Hearing this, Fei Qianxue immediately reacted, you mean Yu Huangzhong? That's right, Qin Daoxian nodded. The other party has spent so much energy just for the pure yang immortal artifact of Yu Huangzhong, and the other party is so eager to seek out the immortal artifact, he wants to go to serve in the extraterritorial battlefield of Liangjiyuan. With Emperor Yuzhong in hand, his strength can be improved by leaps and bounds, and the safety of going to the battlefield outside the territory will naturally be greatly improved. Therefore, for Emperor Yuzhong, he will definitely take the initiative to suppress Xian Ye's death. Although the black-armored cultivator is a member of the Wu Jixianmen, His status in the Wuji Xianmen is not high, which can be seen from the fact that he calls the master of Xiao Yuhua. Maybe the other party is not even a disciple trained by Wuji Xianmen, but a guest who was recruited from loose cultivation. This kind of thing is not uncommon. Why did the sect and the Xiuxin family occupy so many resources in the Phoenix Meteor realm, but the most numerous scattered cultivators hardly resisted? It's not that they don't want to resist, it's just that there are a few powerful people in the loose cultivators who have been decreed by the major sects and the cultivator family as kitching. In this way, without the strong taking the lead, there is no way to talk about resistance. Qin Zhan frowned and said, but even if the other party presses this matter down, it doesn't make any sense. We don't need Wuji Xianmen, only Xiao Yuhua alone. We may not be able to stop it. Moreover, Xiao Yuhua, as a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen, must have more than one Yuanshan Daojun under his command. If it is a normal Yuanshan Daojun, he is afraid that there will be a Yuanshan Daojun on the third floor of the world. It's not necessarily meaningless, Qin Daoxian said sternly. Look. Speaking, Qin Daoxian shook the bronze bead on his right hand, and immediately 5 one-star Taoist soldiers appeared in front of everyone. This is a Taoist soldier? Concubine Qinxue looked at Qin Daoxian in surprise. There is a record of the Qinyuan sword sect who once went to Liangjiyuan to fight, but there are not many records of the Qinyuan sword sect. Although Qinyuan Jinzong participated in the Liangjiyuan war thousands of years ago, he only participated in the war as cannon fodder. Naturally, there is very little understanding of the treasures that can only be possessed by Yuanshan Daojins such as Dao soldiers. To be able to take a glimpse and record it, it is already the seniors of the sect who are very responsible. Yes, it is the Taoist soldiers. Qin Daoxian nodded. Qin Zhan was a little confused and asked, what is a Taoist soldier? As he said that, he immediately covered the 5 Taoist soldiers present with his divine sense. The next moment, Qin Zhan was taken aback. This. He pointed to the 5 Taoist soldiers and said in surprise, are they humans or puppets? Qin Zhan originally thought that the Dao soldiers were puppets, but he used his spiritual sense to investigate and found that these 5 Dao soldiers actually had spiritual fluctuations. This time he was so frightened that his soul fluctuated, which meant that the 5 silent people in front of him were not puppets but lives. But they looked so similar to puppets except for their appearance. But for things like appearance, for the refiner, it's not just how to refine it. Only the divine soul is unique to life. The 5 people in front of them can never be called puppets, but it seems that they cannot be called people either. Dao soldiers. At this moment, Qin Zhan somewhat understood the meaning of the word Taoist. This is a special kind of puppet life. Senior sister, is this soldier also on the battlefield outside the 2 realms abyss? That's right, concubine Qinxue nodded. It is rumored that Dao soldiers were first invented by a master craftsman from Chuanbao Pavilion. Creation cultivators can create spirituality out of thin air. This master refining master uses spirituality, coupled with special enlightenment techniques, to create a special life like a Taoist soldier. It is precisely because of the existence of Dao soldiers that my human cultivator can barely hold the 2 realms. Hearing this, Qin Zhan was shocked in his heart. He seemed a little unwilling to believe it and asked in doubt, is the Taoist soldiers really that strong? On the side, Qin Daoxian smiled, you will know if it is strong or not. Saying that, he ordered one of the soldiers, Bronze 3. Immediately, a Taoist soldier walked out of the queue. I didn't see him perform any action. I saw a colorful Daoyu suddenly looking at Qin Zhan's head. Boom. With the headshot of the colorful Daoyu, Qin Zhan was directly pressed to the ground, and he couldn't even move a little finger. Seeing Qin Zhan lying on the ground, a look of pleading for mercy appeared in his eyes. Qin Daoxuan's thoughts moved, and the Taoist soldier named Tong San immediately withdrew to the colorful Taoist realm. Feeling the pressure dissipated, Qin Zhan regained control over his body and quickly got up from the ground. This is a Dao domain spell. He is a Dao soldier, and he can actually cast special spells developed on the basis of the Dao domain. Qin Zhan was very excited, which was completely different from those puppets in the Qinji temple. Dao soldiers can not only use spells flexibly, but also use magical tools. Even their cultivation base and the degree of mastery of spells will become stronger with the passage of time. Hearing this, Qin Zhan couldn't bear it any longer. Then what's the difference between them and monks? There's really not much difference except that it's not a viviparous one. Qin Zhan. As if thinking of something, Qin Zhan said again, then where did you get this soldier? Bought. Fei Qinxue frowned, she couldn't figure out how such a precious treasure could be bought at will. Just in the Chuanbao Pavilion you said, it took 200,000 drops of the power of creation to buy it? How much? 200,000? Qin Zhan hurriedly asked. Where did you get so much power of good fortune? You lent me more than 2,000 drops of power of good fortune. Before he could finish speaking, Qin Daoxian threw a storage ring at him. Qin Zhan's consciousness swept away, and there were 23 jade bottles inside, and each jade bottle was filled with 100 drops of the power of creation, exactly 2,300 drops. The two are cleared. I'm not asking you to collect debts. I know. Qin Daoxian said casually, I just tell you I do not lack the power of creation now, and in the future we will have more power of creation. Hearing this, Fei Qinshui faintly guessed something. What do you mean? Qin Daoxian smiled mysteriously and said nothing. Leave Jianghu Island. On a spirit boat. Fei Qinshui looked at Qin Zhan and asked with concern, Is your injury okay? It's okay, the black armored cultivator just grabbed me and threatened you, but it didn't hurt me. Speaking of this, Qin Zhan changed his words, It's just. Just what? Qin Zhan sighed and said, Qin Daoxuan's strength has improved too fast, it has only been 3 years and he can kill even Yuanshan Daojun at this speed. I am afraid that he will reach the strength of Tianzuan, it will not take long. Senior sister, do you think? He will keep his promise and marry you? Hear this. Fei Qinshui rested her cheeks in one hand, looked at the rapidly receding clouds outside the spirit boat, and said with certainty, Yes, I believe him. Seeing the appearance of Fei Qinshui, Qin Zhan couldn't say anything. It is true that Qin Daoxuan's strength has improved too fast. Regardless of whether the military is considered an external force, it is definitely Qin Daoxuan's comprehensive strength. Otherwise, wouldn't the monks also borrow external force when they use magic tools? To a certain extent, Dao soldiers and magic weapons are somewhat similar. It's just that Dao soldiers do not need to be controlled by the master, and are not affected by the master's own cultivation and realm. The magic weapon is different, and in the hands of different monks, the power exerted is completely different. Watching concubine Qinshui and Qin Zhan leave, Qin Daoxian went non-stop and found Qin Dalian, the acting patriarch of the Chen family. Seeing Qin Dalian immediately complained, Patriarch, you are finally back, a black armored cultivator has come to the family. I already know about this, you don't have to worry about it, the other party has already been killed by me. Seeing Qin Daoxuan's resolute appearance, Qin Dalian nodded weakly, Yes, I understand. I have a few things to tell you. Patriarch, please speak. Qin Dalian nodded seriously. The first thing is to spread the news to Wan Xinghai. Within a month I will marry concubine Qin Shui. What? Qin Dalian was startled. But didn't you say before that there are still many people in Qinyuan Jianzong who disagree with your marriage with concubine Qin Shui? Do you need to take a long-term view on this matter? That's too late. Qin Daoxian shook his head. Just do as I ordered. At the double cultivation ceremony between me and concubine Qin Shui a month later, if anyone objects, then go to hell. When he said this, Qin Daoxian was murderous. The last time Qin Dalian saw Qin Daoxian so angry was when Qin Xinhe was kidnapped by Jiang Taiyuan, the head of the Jiang family. It's just that the grass on Jiang Taiyuan's grave is several feet tall. This time, I don't know who will be unlucky again. Qin Dalian thought silently. The second thing, I want to fully implement the spirit stone coins in Wangxinghai and Izumo. What? If it is said that Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshui are combined, it is only against the Qinyuan sword sect, and Qin Daoxuan's move will offend Wangxinghai and all the large and small cultivating families of Izumo. At present, the Qin family has only fully implemented the use of spirit stone coins in Sangzhou. Moreover, the way the Qin family implemented Lingshi coins in Sangzhou was not forced, but a gentle method of boiling frogs in warm water. But this time, Qin Daoxian wanted to push the spirit stone coins on a large scale. It is conceivable that once this matter is not handled properly, the entire Wanxinghai and the newly stabilized Izumo kingdom will be in chaos. Coupled with the marriage between Qin Daoxian and concubine Qin Shui, there was dissatisfaction within the Qinyuan sword sect. Qin Daoxuan's move was really too radical. Almost offended Wanxinghai and Izumo, where did the patriarch get the confidence? At this moment, even though Qin Dalian had immense trust in Qin Daoxian, he still couldn't help but have this question. Of course Qin Daoxian could see Qin Daolian's doubts, but he didn't want to explain too much and said directly, the two things I said can be done at the same time, you don't have to worry, the promotion of spirit stone coins is not only my Qin family's contribution, Qinyuan Jianzong will also endorse my Qin family. Yes. Hearing this, Qin Dalian finally breathed a sigh of relief. Although the Qin family is now known as the first immortal cultivator family in Wanxinghai, compared with the ruler of Qinyuan Jianzong, both in terms of prestige and strength, the two are too far behind. If the Qin family came to push the spirit stone coins to various families, it is estimated that not many people would buy it. But with the endorsement of Qinyuan Jianzong, things are very different. This is the prestige that Qinyuan Jianzong has ruled Wanxinghai for thousands of years. This kind of prestige, even if Qin Daoxuan's strength surpasses Qinyuan Jianzong now, cannot be compared with it in a short period of time. The alliance between the Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong is precisely to use the prestige of Qinyuan Jianzong. Now, the background and strength of Qinyuan Jianzong are nothing to him. Except for the Yuhuang Bell, a pure yang fairy, there is not much in Qinyuan Jianzong that can make him look at it. Chapter 442. And also, Qin Daoxuan's eyes flickered. You take out the mind map of all the Lingshi mines in my Qin family. Lingshi mine map? Qin Dalian was slightly taken aback. She didn't know why Qin Daoxian wanted this thing. For the Qin family today, the amount of spirit stones has become a number. Its only function to the Qin family is to serve as an acceptance for the spirit stone coin, and it plays a role in enhancing the trust of the outside world in the spirit stone coin. As for the circulation of spirit stones as currency for today's Zhangzhou, it is almost zero. Because the current Zhangzhou, the spirit stone coins have been fully used for a long time. The first thing the monks from other states did when they came to Zhangzhou was to find the bank of the Qin family and exchange the spirit stone they carried with them for spirit stone coins, so that they could spend normally in Zhangzhou. Moreover, with the continuous expansion of Zhangzhou's foreign trade scale, the influence of Lingshi coins has also grown. In Yuanqin Xianqing, Jingzhou, and even Taizhou, which does not deal with the Qin family, and Jinan Xianqing in Izumo, the new currency of Lingshi coins is used on a small or large scale. It can be said that as a new type of currency, Lingshi coin has already had a foundation for comprehensive promotion in Wanxinghai. As for the Izumo kingdom, since it has just been recovered, if you want to fully promote the spirit stone coins, you have to rely on the decree of Qinyuan Jianzong. Qin Dalian hurriedly took out a jade slip from the storage ring, handed it over respectfully and said, Patriarch, this is the map of all the spiritual stone mines that my Qin family currently has. Among them, Zhangzhou has a total of 17 large-scale spirit stone mines, all of which have been mastered by my Qin family. There are 174 medium-sized spirit stone mines, 163 of which are mastered by my Qin family. Small-scale spirit stone mines. Jingzhou, Taizhou, Yuzhou. Qin Dalian has a lot of treasures in her family. She has counted the spiritual stone mines that the Qin family has earned and robbed from other immortal cultivators through various means such as trade, force, and diplomacy over the years. It took a long time for Qin Dalian to report all the spirit stone mines in the Qin family's possession. According to Qin Dalian, the Qin family currently owns a total of 437 spirit stone mines, including 41 large-scale spirit stone mines, 236 medium-sized spirit stone mines, and 100 small-scale spirit stone mines. 60 seats. It can be seen from the data. The spirit stone mines mainly mastered by the Qin family are medium-sized spirit stone mines. According to the reserves of a medium-sized spirit stone mine in the range of 100 million to 300 million tons, all the spirit stones of a medium-sized spirit stone mine are mined, and there are about 200 billion to 600 billion. If it was all refined into the power of creation, there would be 20,000 to 60,000 drops. After all, maybe only one Dao soldier can be purchased. But don't forget, the Qin family now has a total of 437 spirit stone mines, even if the small spirit stone mines are thrown away. There are 277 large-scale spiritual stone mines and medium-sized spiritual stone mines alone. If there are so many spirit stone mines, if they are all mined, there will be nearly 200 trillion light spirit stones. If they are all refined into the power of good fortune, there will be at least nearly 20 million drops of the power of good fortune. Qin Daoxian silently looked at the mineral map of the spirit stone mine handed by Qin Dalian, and while looking at it, he calculated how much the power of creation could be extracted if all the spirit stone reserves of the Qin family were extracted. It's not that I don't know, and when I figure it out, even Qin Daoxian himself was taken aback. 20 million drops of the power of creation. Such a large amount of wealth, even if the Qinyuan sword sect was packaged and sold, it would not be able to sell at this price. Qin Daoxian thought in shock. Don't look at Qinyuan Jianzong's pure yang immortal artifact, it seems incredible. But in Chuanbao Pavilion, pure yang immortal artifact is not a treasure that cannot be bought. Although Qin Daoxian didn't know what the price of the pure yang immortal artifact was in Chuanbao Pavilion, it was not so expensive to sell 20 million spirit stones. It turns out that my Qin family is already so rich. Qin Daoxian muttered. Hearing this, Qin Daolian on the side also sighed. Yes, my Qin family no longer have to worry about spiritual stones and cultivation resources, and all of this is because of you, the patriarch. Speaking of this, Qin Daolian looked at Qin Daoxian with a look of reverence. Qin Daoxian knew that Qin Daolian had misunderstood what he meant, but he was too lazy to explain. He waved his hand and smiled and said, Okay, don't be flattering, I'll explain your business, let's do it first. Yes, patriarch. Qin Daolian nodded and immediately disappeared in front of Qin Daoxian in an instant. Watching Qin Daolian leave, Qin Daoxian's consciousness instantly enveloped the entire Jianghu island, and then he flashed and disappeared in place. The capital of Su State. In a majestic fairy palace. Xianyi is dead. Inside the immortal palace, a young monk wearing a golden python robe was sitting in front of an antique desk and said coldly. The words fall. His mana lightly tapped on a dark wood, which was Yi Tianqi's hiding place, Jiuyo Soul Cultivation Wood. What? With a scream, Yi Tianqi's pale figure instantly appeared in front of Xiao Yuhua. Seeing Xiao Yuhua with an angry face, Yi Tianqi did not dare to defend himself, and immediately knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Dao Jun, spare your life, Dao Jun, spare your life. You killed one of my generals. Yi Tianqi, how do you want to die? Xiao Yuhua said quietly. Dao Jun, calm down, the younger generation will never deceive Dao Jun. The strongest of the Qianyuan sword sect really only has the strength of the second-level real monarch of the world, and they do not have primordial spirit. Ah. Yi Tianqi suddenly thought of something. Could it be that Fei Qinxue has broken through to the primordial spirit stage? Humph? You still want to lie to me? Xiao Yuhua's face sank and he immediately waved his hand to kill him, but was stopped by the old man beside him. And many more. Old Wu. Xiao Yuhua looked at the other party puzzled. He killed Xianyi. I know, Old Wu nodded, but now that Xianyi is dead, killing him can only help out, and it will not help the young master's plan to seize Qianyuan sword sect's pure yang immortal artifact. Hearing the words Chunyang immortal artifact, Xiao Yuhua calmed down immediately. This time to serve in Liangjiyuan is an agreement reached between Wuji Xianmen and Tianzuan City. He was a mere disciple of the Promise Immortal sect, and he was powerless to resist. He was able to delay his service period until now, and it was his privilege that he could only have because of his identity as a direct disciple. Change to other Yuanshan Daojun as early as the first time of breaking through Yuanshan period, must go to Liangjiyuan to serve. The fact that Yuanshan Daojun went to serve in the battlefield outside the two realms was personally decided by Tian Zunqing. In the Fengyun realm, this is an iron law and it has always been undisputed. Don't look at him, Xiao Yuhua, who is calling the wind and the rain in the capital of Su Kingdom. He is still the number one person, but facing Tianzuan City, even Wuji Xianmen doesn't have much room for bargaining. Not to mention that he is a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen. But as the front line of Fengyun realm and True Demon realm, Liangjiyuan is not so good. According to the statistics of the cultivators in the Fengyun realm, the Yuanshan Daojun who just broke through has the highest damage rate in the battlefield outside the two realms. It seems that the demons of the real demon world like to hunt down these Yuanshan Daojun who have just broken through. On the contrary, those nascent soul cultivators, the realm demons just hunted and killed them after seeing them, and generally would not take the initiative to find them if they didn't see them. But those Yuanshan Daojun who just came from Fengyun realm are different. Although these people are strong compared with the famous old Taoist monarchs, the gap is so big that it is unreasonable. But the income from swallowing this kind of monk is not much lower than the income from swallowing the old Daojun. This is why the real monsters in the real demon world like to find trouble with the new Daojun in the Fengyun realm. For the world monsters, human monks, especially those with advanced cultivation, are a great supplement. Devouring one Yuanshan Daojun is often more profitable than devouring 1,000 or even 10,000 Yuanying Jinjuan. Faced with such a temptation, how could those high-level demons in the real demon world be able to hold back? As a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen, Xiao Yuhua is more aware of the terrifying battlefield outside the realm than other Yuanshan Daojun. Because of this, he spared no expense to cast Dao soldiers, search for various high-level magic weapons and enhance his own strength. But in the final analysis he is only a third-layer Taoist in the world. Although his strength is much stronger than ordinary Daojun, Xiao Yuhua has no sense of security in the face of those fierce high-level demons in the real demon world. Not to mention, his Wuxia immortal sect has a direct disciple who is much better than him, and even the sect even lent him a pure Yang immortal artifact to protect him for his safety. As a result, the other party died in the outer battlefield, and even the pure Sun immortal artifact that Zhongmin gave him to protect his body was also lost in the outer battlefield. After learning about this, Xiao Yuhua was extremely reluctant to go to the battlefield outside Liangjiyuan. He knew the senior brother who died in Daoxing. When the other party went to Liangjiyuan at that time, he was already a 4th-level Daoist in the world, plus a pure Yang fairy weapon to protect his body. It can be said that even if the opponent encounters a 5th-layer Daoist in the world, he will still have the power to fight. But just like that, the senior brother died. This incident was a big blow to Xiao Yuhua, who was only on the 2nd floor of the world realm at that time, and once caused a serious psychological shadow to him. He is afraid of death. That's right, he has cultivated to the point where he has 10,000 years of life, and of course Xiao Yuhua doesn't want to die. But the extraterritorial battlefield had to go. That's why Xiao Yuhua is so desperate to collect money to enrich his strength. You know, when Yi Tianqi brought him the news that Qianyuan Sword Sect possessed the pure Yang immortal artifact, it almost made Xiao Yuhua go crazy with joy. He wanted to make a big splash, lead someone to kill Qianyuan Jianzong directly, and then the other party's pure Yang immortal artifact. But Wu Lao stopped him because of the ban issued by Tian Zunqing. On the occasion of violating the prohibition of Qinzuan City, if it is discovered, it is really a dead end. In desperation, he had to send Xian Yi to propose a marriage to the sect master of Qianyuan Sword Sect, and then seek the pure Yang immortal artifact. From Xiao Yuhua's point of view, this move must be extremely easy. He was a dignified 3rd-level Taoist monarch in the world, and he proposed to a 2nd-level real monarch in the world, which gave him enough face. You must know that even the first-rate sects are not in the eyes of Wuji Xianmen, let alone the second-rate sects in the wild land of Qianyuan Jianzong. If it wasn't for Wan Xinghai having a mysterious inheritance, it is estimated that this place has been forgotten by all the monks in the central province of Xianyun continent. As for Qianyuan Sword Sect, Xiao Yuhua had never even heard of it before. After calm down, Xiao Yuhua turned his head to look at the old man beside him and asked, "Old Wu, I will go to serve in Liangjiyuan in 5 years, this time is the deadline, I must get the Qianyuan sword within 5 years. Zong's immortal artifact." Wu Lao heard Xiao Yuhua's resolute meaning, nodded and said, "Young master, rest assured this matter is left to this old man to handle, no matter what means they use to kill Xian Yi, it proves that the other party has at least Yuanshan Dao monarch level. Fighting power, young master must not force it." Despite his unwillingness, Xiao Yuhua nodded, "Okay, I will listen to Mr. Wu, what do you say? It can be like this." Wu Lao thought for a while and said slowly. Listening to Wu Lao's words, Xiao Yuhua's eyes gradually brightened, and he smiled and said, "Okay, since that's the case, I'll be here waiting for the good news of Wu Lao. However, the old man has to borrow someone from the young master." "Who?" "He." Elder Wu pointed at Yi Tianqi. "How difficult is this?" Xiao Yuhua waved his hand, and Joyo Soul Cultivating Wood flew to Old Wu's hand. With a wave of his sleeves, Wu Lao put Yi Tianqi into the Joyo Soul tree. Twin Lakes Island. When Qin Daoxuan's figure reappeared, he had already appeared in the newly renovated Qin Family Magical Instrument Research Institute. To be precise, the Qin family's Magical Instrument Research Institute has now merged with the Qianyuan Jianzong's Artifact Refining Hall. This is the first department of the Qin family in Qianyuan Jianzong to merge. It is also a department that Qin Daoxian attaches great importance to. Besides, he really didn't like the Yuanying Xinjuan and other disciples of Qianyuan Jianzong. In his opinion, Qin Zhan and concubine Qin Xue also have some talents in Qianyuan Jianzong. Others, including those top true monarchs, are just as talented. Although Wan Xinghai is poor in resources, the cultivator's Dao realm is not limited by resources. In the capital of Su State, Qin Daoxian even met the true monarch on the 3rd floor of the world. In Qianyuan Jianzong, there are only 2 people in the world, Qin Zhan and concubine Qin Xue. As for the major sects on the northwestern frontier of Xianyun continent, only Yi Tianqi has reached the level of a true monarch in the world. It can be said that there are very few monks near Wan Xinghai who have the potential of Yuanshan Daojun. Qin Daoxian naturally would not be too concerned about the monks of Qianyuan Jianzong. Compared with the cultivation talent of the disciples of the Qianyuan Sword Sect, what he cares more about is what kind of sparks can be produced after the integration of the Qin Family Magical Instrument Research Institute and the Qianyuan Sword Sect Refining Hall. Speaking of which, what Qin Daoxian wants to do most now is to annex the Master Refiner in the Hall of Thousand Machines. In his opinion, although the fighting power of the Thousand Machines Hall is weak, the opponent's means of refining puppets is really not weak. Qin Daoxian was envious of their puppet refining skills. It was not a day or two, especially when he knew that the Taoist soldiers were formed through puppets. Patriarch. In the Institute of Magical Instruments, Qin Daochu saw Qin Daoxian, and his face immediately showed an ecstatic expression. He trotted towards Qin Daoxian, and when the monks around heard the word patriarch, they all looked at Qin Daoxian curiously. Qin Daoxian could see that the faces of these people were very unfamiliar, and they were neither the Qin family's own craftsmen, nor the talented loose cultivator recruited by the Qin family. From this point of view there is only one answer. These people are all from the Qinyuan Sword Sect Refining Hall. Qin Daoxian retracted his gaze and said with a smile, "It seems that the progress of your Institute of Magical Instruments has been good in recent years." Hearing this, Qin Daochu became excited. "Of course not bad. Patriarch, guess how many high-level artifact refiners are there in the Qin Family Artifact Research Institute? 7,017K. Chapter 443. How many? Qin Daochu stretched out his palm. There are more than 5,000 people. There are more than 5,000 people in my Qin Family Magical Instrument Research Institute, and there are more than 5,000 artifact refiners above the 4th rank. So much. Qin Daoxian was taken aback. Don't look at the rapid development of the Qin family's industrial refining. In fact, there are not many high-level refining masters. Even compared with the deep-rooted Yuaning family, they are far from each other, let alone compared with a large sect like Qinyuan Jianzong. After all, in order to cultivate highly professional talents such as high-level alchemists and alchemists, in addition to spending a lot of resources, it also requires a lot of time, and there must be a sufficient population base. Because the emergence of alchemy geniuses and artifact refining geniuses, like immortal seedlings with talent, is a very rare situation. Over the years, the Qin family has grown to a population of nearly 10 million, but the number of cultivators is only a few 100,000, which is not much. According to the probability of an artifact refining genius appearing, how many artifact refining geniuses can be born out of the hundreds of thousands of cultivators in the Qin family? Therefore, the Qin family vigorously searched for all kinds of geniuses in the loose cultivator in order to absorb them into the Qin family. For the time being, it seems that the effect is not bad. But there is a problem with doing this, that is, there are too many geniuses in the loose cultivation, and over time, the dominance of the Qin family cultivator will be gradually replaced. This is also the situation that the senior executives of the Qin family are most worried about. Don't get it to the end, the Qin family has become the Qin family of the loose cultivators, not the Qin family of the Qin family. That's funny. Daochu. Patriarch. Qin Daochu had a solemn look on his face. Qin Daoxian said earnestly, "I don't have many artifact refining masters in the Qin family. So many people from Qinyuan Jianzong's Artifact Refining Hall have joined the Artifact Research Institute. You have to make good use of their strengths." Saying that, he gave him a meaningful look. Qin Daochu instantly understood this look and immediately nodded. "Patriarch, don't worry, my Qin family will never give up on the training of this clan's refiner. Not only that, but I also plan to let these newly joined craftsmen set up professional courses in the Qin family studies to train our own craftsmen." "You just understand." A hint of relief flashed across Qin Daoxuan's face. Don't look at Qin Daochus, usually a little awkward, but when it comes to major events he is never vague. The Qin family has always been Qin Daoxuan's most trusted group of people. Relatively speaking, although Qinyuan Jianzong is the sect of his future wife, concubine Qin Xue, they are naturally more than a little worse than the Qin family in terms of loyalty. For the people of Qinyuan Jianzong, he can only use it and he can't believe it. Not to mention him, the people of Qinyuan Sword Sect, even to their suzerain concubine Qin Xue, are not unconditional obedience. Just like Fei Chengshi's decision to marry him, there was a lot of opposition within the Qinyuan Sword Sect. How can Qin Daoxian trust such a sect? Therefore, Qin Daoxian has already figured out that even if Qinyuan Jianzong will form an alliance with the Qin family in the future, he will still focus on the development of the Qin family. As for Qinyuan Jianzong, it will become an affiliated force united by the Qin family. Before, he thought of being generous. But after Xiao Yuhua forcibly proposed to Qinyuan Jianzong this time, Qin Daoxian found that except his Qin family, no one was reliable. Before Qin Daoxian went to Su State, the suzerain of Tianyinzong had already expressed his attitude to rely on his Qin family and Qinyuan Jianzong. As a result, Xiao Yuhua forcibly proposed marriage to concubine Qin Xue, and the people of Tianyinzong did not even report to Qin Daoxian, not to mention resistance. Naturally, Qin Daoxian would no longer trust such a grassy sect on the wall. The same is true of Qinyuan Jianzong. It seems that Qinyuan Jianzong is relatively united under the rule of concubine Qinshua. Yin has fallen and new forces have risen. Qin Daoxian simply didn't have the energy to play these political tricks with the old fritters of Qinyuan Jianzong. He figured it out clearly whether he was marrying his concubine Qin Shui, or Qinyuan Jianzong and the Qin family formed an alliance, he would have to push it forward. Who dares to stop? Who dies? The real demon world will be unified by the demon court at any time, and a war may break out between the two worlds at any time. Qin Daoxian didn't dare and didn't want to drag it on. Now he just wants to cut through the mess quickly and settle the overall situation. Right, one more thing. Please instruct the patriarch. Qin Daochu bowed his hands. Qin Daoxian took out a jade slip from the storage ring and handed it over. This is the technology of the Qingmu Ding production line that I came up with. Your Magic Weapon Research Institute will improve it, and then organize people to refine it on a large scale. Hearing this, Qin Daochu solemnly took the jade slip and checked it carefully. Qin Daochu is a 4th-order high-grade craftsman, and he is only one step away from a 5th-order craftsman. As he checked, the shock on Qin Daochu's face became more and more intense. In the end, his face was full of excitement and he raised his head. Patriarch, you made this? You kid, have you forgotten that the Rongling furnace was developed by me? Hey, the technical difficulty of the Rongling furnace can't be compared with this Aoki Ding production line. The two are not at the same level. Qin Daochu's baby seemed to be stroking the jade slip and couldn't put it down. As if thinking of something, Qin Daochu said again, however, the machine tool that produces the Qingmu Ding is a 4th-order magic tool, and it needs to be refined by a 4th-order craftsman and my Qin family's 4th-order craftsman, but not much, I'm afraid. No problem. Qin Daoxian shook his head. Let the people from the refining hall participate. But? Qin Daoxian raised his hand. Follow the power in a hurry, let them make the Great Tao Oath, and then divide the production line into several parts, let different refiners refine different parts and then combine them. Besides, they didn't know that this magic machine was used to produce Qingmu Ding. That's right, it seems that's the only way to go. Qin Daochu could feel that the patriarch's tone revealed a sense of urgency. Although he didn't know why Qin Daoxian was so anxious, it must not be a trivial matter to think that it would make the patriarch feel anxious. As for the confidentiality work, it has always been the work of the Magical Instrument Research Institute, and it is not difficult for Qin Daochu to implement it. The department of the Magical Instrument Research Institute is destined to have too many secrets of the Qin family. Whether it is the original Rongling furnace, or the later centrifugal wall-breaking machine, magic lithography machine, magic tool machine tool and other industrialized alchemy and talisman equipment. All the Magic Weapon Research Institutes have complete refining technology. If the confidentiality work is not done well, these technologies have long been stolen by the major immortal races in Wanxinghai. Actually, in order to protect these technologies, the Qin family not only established a strict security system and confidentiality system within the Magical Instrument Research Institute, but also set up a military intelligence department for it. This military intelligence department is directly under the jurisdiction of the Qin family's military department and directly under the command of Qin Fusheng. Such strict security measures have allowed the Qin Family Magical Instrument Research Institute to never reveal any technology. Go ahead. Yes. Watching Qin Daochu bow and salute, Qin Daoxuan's figure instantly disappeared in place. Twin Lakes Island. On the periphery of the Magical Instrument Research Institute, on a man-made floating fairy mountain. This floating fairy mountain was artificially created by the Qin family using the floating formation method, and its power source was the 5th-order spiritual veins on Jianghu Island. The floating immortal mountain that Qin Daoxian set foot on was newly built by the military department of the Qin family after he left the family 3 years ago. The purpose is to prevent Qinyuan from leaking some of each other's secrets during the integration of Qianyuan's construction of the Hall of Refining and Qin's Court of Magical Artifacts. Not only the Qin family but after so many years, the Qinyuan Sword Sect's Item Refining Hall has also accumulated countless item refining inheritances. Among these artifact refining inheritances, some of the Qin family did not like it very much, but some of them were very envious of the Qin family. For example, the method of refining large-scale war instruments, the method of refining high-level puppets, the method of refining high-level spirit armor, and so on. These things, Qinyuan Jianzong's refining hall has everything. The reason why Qin Daoxian said before that the Qinyuan Jianzong Refining Hall and the Qin Family Magical Instrument Research Institute were merged was that in addition to the talents of the Refining Hall, he also took a fancy to the heritage of the Refining Hall. Now, with the fusion of the two, these details have been accepted by the Qin Family Magical Instrument Research Institute little by little. In Qin Daoxuan's view, these are the most precious treasures of Qinyuan Sword Sect. In comparison, the resources possessed by Qinyuan Sword Sect are secondary. As long as the resources are strong enough, the Qin family will be able to occupy it sooner or later, whether it is through trade or force. And this kind of thing is uncertain, and it needs to be accumulated slowly from generation to generation. For example, if the Qin family has now destroyed the Shenqing Taoist alliance, will the other party's heritage become the heritage of the Qin family? Bullshit. If the Shenqing Dao alliance was really destroyed by the Qin family, how could the hated Shenqing Dao alliance monks teach them the knowledge of alchemy and weapon refining in their hands? And the other party would definitely destroy these things. On the floating fairy mountain, a group of palaces stands above. This is where the military intelligence office under the Qin family's military headquarters is located. Brush. Qin Daoxuan's figure instantly appeared in front of a young monk. Patriarch. Seeing Qin Daoxian, Qin Fuxing, who was in retreat and meditating, stood up instantly, his face full of surprise. Looking at the other party's face, Qin Fuxing didn't know anything about the fact that Xian Yi kidnapped Qin Zhan and invaded his immortal mansion. Right. Although Qin Fuxing is the most powerful person in the entire Qin family except him, he is only in the late period of Zifu after all. How could a late Zifu monk discover the whereabouts of a primordial spirit monk? Isn't this a night talk in the sky? Thinking of this, Qin Daoxian shook his head, lifted up Qin Fuxing and said, "Don't be too polite." Qin Fuxing stood up straight and said happily, "Patriarch, when did you come back?" "Just now." Qin Daoxian said casually, "By the way, you are sitting here during this time and you can find any movement." "Patriarch, there is no movement." Hearing this, Qin Daoxian sighed secretly in his heart. The black-armored cultivator Xian Yi invaded the Qin family, but no one in the Qin family could find it, and even the opponent did not even touch the Qin family's defensive formation. The Qin family's defensive formation is as high as Tier 6. But to guard against primordial spirit cultivators like Xian Yi, the mere 6th order formation was very difficult. In addition, the highest practitioner of the Qin family who manipulated this formation was only in the late period of Zifu, so he was even more powerless. Think of this. Qin Daoxian took out a jade bottle from the storage ring and handed it to Qin Fuxing. "Patriarch, this is." Qin Fuxing took the jade bottle, his face full of doubts. "This is the 4th order Saint Yuandan." Qin Daoxian said indifferently. "What?" Qin Fuxing was taken aback and immediately declined. "The Patriarch must not. This physics should only be used by the Patriarch. What virtue and how can Fuxing dare to use this thing?" "You are right, it is because you are incompetent that you have to use this thing." Qin Daoxian said unceremoniously, "Do you know that before I returned to my family, there was a thief lurking in my immortal mansion?" "Who?" Hearing this, Qin Fuxing only felt his face burning like fire. "It doesn't matter who you are, you just need to know that with your current strength, you are still too far away to protect the Qin family. What qualifications do you have to refuse a treasure that enhances your strength?" Qin Daoxuan's lesson made Qin Fuxing a little shameless. Seeing his appearance, Qin Daoxuan's tone slowed down again. "I know that the Qin family's development speed is too fast, and your progress speed is fast enough. You don't even need to be inferior to any genius in Qinyuan Jianzong, but this not enough, far from enough." Qin Daoxian paused. "The enemies my Qin family will face in the future will become stronger and stronger, and you don't want to have to hide behind me in the future, right?" Hearing these words, Qin Fuxing clenched his fists tightly. "Patriarch, I understand." Gently patted the other party's shoulder, Qin Daoxian said, "You understand there are 3 Xing Yuan Dan in this bottle. Originally this Xing Yuan Dan should be taken during the Jin Dan period, and the effect is the best. However, with your body training in Dao realm, you can also take it in advance. I hope that after taking these 3 Saint Yuan pills, you will be able to hit the realm of nascent soul." "Heard." Qin Fuxing took a deep breath and said, "If you don't break nascent soul, you will never stop." "Okay, I'll wait for your good news," Qin Daoxian said with relief. This time, Qin Daoxian chose to hand over all the allocation of Xing Yuandan to Qin Fuxing to help him break through the nascent soul stage in one fell swoop. Originally, Qin Daoxian planned to give one of the pills to Luo Li, and the other 2 to Qin Fuxing so that he could hit the Yuaning stage. But now, Qin Daoxian is eager to let the Qin family give birth to another cultivator in the Yuanning period. In this way, if the Taoist team is handed over to the opponent, the Qin family will be able to withstand the Yuanshan stage monks on the first and second floors of the world. Fortunately, the black-armored cultivator regarded himself very highly and did not do anything to the Qin family. What if this time the other party came to Chen's house and massacred it? Where did Qin Daoxian go to buy regret medicine? Besides, when Shen Yi was killed, whether Xiao Yuhua behind him was avenging his subordinates or for the pure yang immortal artifact of Qin Yuan sword sect, this matter would not end there. Qin Daoxian must plan ahead and improve the Qin family's ability to deal with the crisis in time. Qin Daoxian's first preparation was that after he left the family, the Qin family still had the strength to deal with the primordial spirit cultivator. As for the second preparation, it is a counterattack. Xiao Yuhua forcibly married the concubine Qin Shui for the sake of Chunyang immortal weapon, and also violated the Qin family. Even if the other party gave up on this matter, Qin Daoxian would not give up. He really couldn't afford to offend Wuji Xianmen in a short period of time, but it did not mean that Qin Daoxian was helpless against a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen. In terms of his own strength, perhaps there is still a big gap between Qin Daoxian and Xiao Yuhua. But in the Chuanbao Pavilion in the capital of Su State, he knew a treasure of Taoism called Taoist soldiers. With the presence of foreign objects like Dao soldiers, as long as Qin Daoxian has enough power of creation, he can quickly wipe out and even surpass Xiao Yuhua's strength. For Qin Daoxian, as long as he is given a little time, the most important thing he does not lack is the power of creation. In the blink of an eye, half a month has passed. A total of 2,317 greenwood tripod production lines were completed under the refinement of more than 5,000 fourth-order refiners at the Qin Family Artifact Research Institute day and night. Look at the Patriarch, this is the first batch of greenwood cauldron production lines, and the subsequent greenwood cauldron production lines are still being refined. In a newly built magic tool factory, Qin Daochu introduced to Qin Daoxian. Okay, continue refining. Qin Daoxian looked at the Aoki Ding production line in front of him. All the production lines here are also running, and the Aoki Dings that are offline are all used to refine the power of creation. How is the preparation of the spirit stone mine that I let my tribe mine? Patriarch, my Qin family has mobilized all Zhangzhou cultivators to fully exploit the large and medium-sized spirit stone mines in Zhangzhou. At present, the first batch of spirit stones totaling more than 10 trillion spirit stones have been transported to the Qinjia Dongtian treasure house for storage. As long as Aoki Ding is offline, it can be directly refined. Hearing this efficiency, Qin Daoxian nodded with satisfaction. Not bad. But this time, when he heard Qin Daoxuan's praise, Qin Daochu was not excited but hesitant. Speak up if you have something to say. Qin Daoxian stared. 7,017K. Chapter 444. Hearing this, Qin Daochu looked hesitant and said, Recently my Qin family has been mining spirit stone mines which has caused Zhangzhou spirit stone coins to become unstable. Now that Zhangzhou cultivators are all in a panic, for fear that my Qin family will mine all the spirit stones in Zhangzhou, and the spirit stone coins in their hands will become waste paper. Absurd. Qin Daoxian snorted coldly. Spiritual stone coins can buy all kinds of medicinal pills, magic weapons and magic talismans produced by my Qin family. How can they be reduced to waste paper? I will make Fuxing. Speaking of this, Qin Daoxian stopped abruptly. He remembered that Qin Fuxing was in retreat to break through the nascent soul period, and turned to say, Don't worry, I will let the people from the military intelligence department check it out, but I want to see who is in Zhangzhou. Spread rumors. Yes, Patriarch. Hearing this, Qin Daochu breathed a sigh of relief. The Qin family mining spirit stones with such a big fanfare will indeed cause the hearts of Zhangzhou to fluctuate. Because now the collateral of spirit stone coins has gradually changed from spirit stones to spiritual tools, spirit pills and other cultivation resources. And it was the Qin family that provided the Zhangzhou cultivators with the most resources. As long as the Qin family insists on using spiritual stone coins to settle the cultivation resources such as algorithms and spiritual pills, there will be no depreciation of Lingshire coins. With Qin Daoxuan's assurance, Qin Daochu was relieved, and his tone became light again. Patriarch, with the current productivity of this factory, we can produce at most 77 greenwood cauldrons per day. Nissan 77. Qin Daoxian nodded. He worked hard for 2 years in the capital of Su Kingdom before he made 50 greenwood cauldrons. Now with the Qin family as the backing, just one day's effort can surpass his 2 years of hard work. Not only that, with the increasing number of Qingmu Ding production lines, the production speed of Qingmu Ding will only get faster and faster. No matter how strong Qin Daoxian is, it is impossible to compare with the terrifying productivity of industrialization. By the way, are there enough materials for making Aoki Ding? Enough. Qin Daochu nodded and said, the 4 major demon kingdoms in the real demon world have always been under the control of the Qinyuan sword sect, and the mining of Qingmu steel has also been going on. I heard that Qinyuan Jinzong originally planned to use the hands of the 4 major demon countries to start trade with other demon countries in the real demon world, but I don't know why this matter was delayed. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian did not speak. Of course he knew why Fei Qinshue stopped the plan to develop the real demon world. With Xiao Yuhua, a foreign enemy, and Qin Daoxian not in Wangxinghai, she naturally had no intention of attacking the real demon world. You don't need to worry about this matter, as long as there are enough materials for refining the Qingmu cauldron. He paused. From now on, I will try my best to produce Qingmu cauldron and refine the power of good fortune. What I'm going to do next requires a lot of power of good fortune, understand? Clear. Qin Daochu held his head high and swore to assure. With the spiritual stone reserves of the Qin family, at least 20 million drops of the power of creation can be extracted. But it is not an easy thing to refine such a huge spiritual stone into the power of creation. According to a greenwood cauldron, the speed of refining 365 drops of the power of creation a year. If Qin Daoxian wants to extract 20 million drops of the power of creation within a year, he needs at least 55,000 greenwood cauldrons. At the rate at which the factory produces 77 greenwood tripods a day, it would take about 2 years. That is to say, it will take several years for Qin Daoxian to refine all the spiritual stones of the Qin family into the power of creation, and this is only the spiritual stone resources in the hands of the Qin family. In fact, the spiritual stone resources that Qin Daoxian is about to master is far beyond what he is now. Qin Daoxian is about to marry concubine Qinshue, and the Qin family will also form an alliance with Qinyuan Jianzong. At that time, the spiritual stone resources that Qin Daoxian masters will no longer be a mere state, but the entire Wangxinghai and Izumo kingdom. How many spirit stones can be mined in total from the spirit stone mines of Wangxinghai and Izumo? Qin Daoxian couldn't imagine it. 4 high-level cultivators, spirit stones are numbers and their value is not great. But the power of creation is different. Except for the Yuanjiang family of Liangjie, if other cultivators want to obtain this thing, they must work hard to refine it. In this way, the power of creation naturally has a huge human cost in it. Even the Yuanjiang family of the 2 realms can use the greenwood cauldron to refine the power of good fortune, but they have to spend time refining the 4th-order magic weapon of the greenwood cauldron. You must know that it is much more difficult to train a 4th-order alchemist than to train a Jindan real person. Even the Yuanjiang family of the 2 realms has not many 4th-order refiners. Qinyuan Sword Sect. A cave in Beppu. Several figures are sitting together. If there are monks from the Jindan period and above of the Qinyuan Sword Sect, they will be able to recognize them. The few present are all the top true monarchs of the Qinyuan Sword Sect. Lingwu, what are you still hesitating about now? Concubine Qinshue betrayed the foundation of the sect. Should I turn a blind eye to this? One of the true monarchs said excitedly, my Qinyuan Sword Sect has been passed down from ancient times to the present, and I have gone through many trials and hardships. But now I have to be easily taken into the bag by a yellow-mouthed child. Can you bear this tone? Palace Master Mo, don't be impatient. True Monarch Linwu said solemnly, I can't make a decision easily until the final step. What else this Hall Master Mo wanted to say, the true monarch on the side quickly persuaded. Yes, Hall Master Mo, the marriage between Qin Daoxian and the sect master is just a rumor, the truth is unknown, you are so impulsive now, isn't it? Disgraced the reputation of the sect master and my Qinyuan Sword Sect. Seemingly thinking of something, the true monarch smiled, speaking of which, I always thought that your Qinyun temple was on the side of the sect master, but I didn't expect. Saying that, the true monarch kept shaking his head. Mo Wuxian's eyes were firm and he said decisively, the object of my allegiance has never been someone, but Qinyuan Jianzong. Whoever dares to betray Qinyun Jianzong is my mortal enemy. This chilling tone shocked everyone present. Even the true monarch Linwu stood up, bowed his hands to Mo Wuxian and said respectfully, Brother Mo, rest assured if the sect master really does the wrong thing and betrays the sect, I will not tolerate it in Linwu. It is good. Mo Wuxian's tone was excited. The eyes of the other true monarchs flickered, not knowing what they were thinking. They knew in their hearts, don't look at the impassioned appearance of Lin Wu Jinjuan and this Hall Master Mo, but the marriage between Qin Daoxian and concubine Qin Xue, and the alliance between the Qin family and Chen Yuan Jianzong, are not within their control. Among the sects, Qin Zhan did not need to say more, he would definitely stand on the side of concubine Qin Xue. In the Qin Yuan sword sect, only Qin Zhan and Fei Qin Xue have reached the world realm, especially Fei Qin Xue who has reached the second floor of the world realm. With just a few of their top true monarchs, how can they fight against the two world realm true monarchs? By mouth? Several true monarchs kept shaking their heads in their hearts. Maybe it's time to make a decision. Just when a few people were discussing, the message Jade Talisman of Lin Wu Jinjuan suddenly sounded. Seeing that everyone was looking at him, Jinjuan Lin Wu took out the communication Jade Talisman and opened the ban in front of everyone. Lin Wu. A soft voice came from the communication Jade Talisman. Is the suzerain? Everyone froze slightly. Metropolitan. Lin Wu Jinjuan bowed his head and said respectfully, I have something important to discuss with you. Hall Master Ganyun and everyone here, please come together. This? Hearing this, everyone looked at each other in dismay. What a strong sense. Across the two caves and the heavy formations, the sect master was able to detect them with his divine sense, and he was not discovered by them. At this moment, this is the only thought in everyone's mind. Such a strong sense of consciousness proves that the spirit of the sect master is getting stronger and stronger, and it is probably only one step away from breaking through the spirit barrier. Flesh Pass, Tao Pass, Divine Soul Pass. Of these three passes, Fei Qin Xue had already passed two of them, and only one pass was left. Now it seems that Fei Qin Xue is about to pass the level of Divine Soul. What this means the people present can't know better. Ginshin Daoquan. Their Qin Yuan Jianzong is about to give birth to a Yuan Shin Dao Jun. Thinking of this, even though everyone knew that Fei Qin Xue was suspected of betraying the sect, they couldn't help but feel excited. Ginshin Daoquan. Once a Yuan Shin Dao Jun is born in the sect, it means that the sect has the possibility of impacting the first-class forces. Just wait for the newly born Yuan Shin Dao Jun to serve in the battlefield outside the two realms, and when the service period expires, the sect will be officially recorded by Tianzunqing and become a first-class force in the Fengyun world. Mo Wuxian and true monarch Lin Wu looked at each other silently, and immediately bowed their hands to the communication Jade Slip. I respectfully obey the decree of the suzerain. When the words fell, the aura on the communication Jade Slip dimmed. Everyone let's go. Together. Please? After everyone finished speaking they all stood up, walked out of Beppu and flew towards Fei Chengshi's cave. Yunshao Palace. Qinyuan Jianzong Discussion Hall. In the hall there are only two people, Fei Qin Xue and Qin Zhan. The rest of the thrones are all empty. It's not that concubine Qin Xue didn't notify everyone, but that she wants to convince the top true monarchs of Qinyuan sword sect today. Only in this way can we further convince all the true monarchs of Qinyuan Jianzong, let the minority obey the majority, and form an alliance with the Chen family. If the top true monarch of Qinyuan Jianzong confronts her two brothers and sisters, then Qinyuan Jianzong will be divided into two factions again. One faction will follow her concubine Qin Xue and alliance with the Chen family. The other faction disagreed with the alliance. This will inevitably lead to the division of Qinyuan sword sect. Although Fei Qin Xue has confidence in suppressing them, this will definitely damage the strength of Qinyuan sword sect. This is what she doesn't want to see. Today Fei Qin Xue has made up her mind, either to persuade the elders of Qinyuan sword sect, or to get rid of them completely. In short, she cannot let Qinyuan Jianzong fall into turmoil and division. Back then she repeatedly tolerated Yi Yin's faction, just because she didn't want to see Qinyuan Jianzong fall into civil strife. Now she will never allow Yi Yin's disaster to appear a second time. Whoosh whoosh. Outside the hall, a flash of light flew into the hall and took their seats. Concubine Chengshi's gaze swept across the elders of the sect and finally, her gaze fell on Jinjuan Linwu. Among these people present, Linwu Jinjuan was the oldest and had the highest credit. Everyone is also vaguely headed by him. Seeing concubine Qinxue looking at him, Jinjuan Linwu slowly stood up, bowed to concubine Qinxue and said, "Sect master, I don't know why you have called me here, why?" Hearing this, concubine Qinxue raised her right hand vacantly and said, "True Lord Linwu does not need to be too polite. Speaking of which, this matter is related to the future and destiny of my Qinyuan sword sect, so I have to discuss it with you all." She paused. "True monarch, how is my situation in Wanxinghai now?" Hearing this, Jinjuan Linwu frowned. Now that Azumo has been recaptured, my Qinyuan sword sect is at its peak, and the situation in Wanxinghai is naturally stable. Hearing this, concubine Qinshu sighed and said, why should the true monarch deceive himself and others? It is true that my Qinyuan sword sect is unique in Wanxinghai, but to say that Wanxinghai is unmatched, it is not necessarily what the sect master said, but the Qin family. Before the concubine Qin Shui could finish speaking, Jinju and Linwu interrupted. If the sect master is just worried about the troubles of the Qin family, his subordinates can take action in person to calm down the Qin family. That's right. The master of the Qinyun palace also stood up. Why should the Qin family be afraid of the Qin family, which occupies the land of Wanxinghai in one prefecture? If the sect master really thinks that the Qin family is a disaster, just cut it off. Yes, although the Qin family is strong, they are only stronger than Qin Daoxian, and the rest are not worth mentioning. What junior brother you said is very true. The crowd joined in. Seeing the echoes below, Feiking's eyes were still dull. What do you mean, the Qin family is a threat to my Qinyuan sword sect, so I will remove it, right? True monarch Linwu stood up again and said, Sect master, although cutting off the meritorious officials will make my Qinyuan sword sect bear the infamy, but I would like to bear this infamy alone. After the Qin family is removed, the sect master can announce to the public that I will be expelled from the sect. Beside Fei Qinxue, the pale Qin Zhan frowned slightly. No oil and salt. This Linwu is really a muscle, and he would rather bear the infamy than merge the sect with the Qin family. Linwu, can you win fellow Daoist Qin? Concubine Qinxue said unceremoniously, you should be aware that fellow Daoist Qin is already the true monarch of the world. Sect master, I want to invite Emperor Yu Zhongyi to use it. True monarch Linwu did not give in. Just when the two sides were fighting each other, a crisp applause sounded in the hall. Immediately afterwards, the space rippled slightly, and a white figure suddenly appeared in the hall. It was Qin Daoxian. True monarch Linwu, what grudges do you and I have to make you decide to kill me? Jinju and Linwu shook his head. There is no hatred and no resentment. On the contrary, I have admired you very much before, but this does not mean that you can occupy the dove's nest and occupy my Qinyuan sword sect. In the eyes of the true monarch, I, Qin Daoxian, are the traitor who stole your Qinyuan sword sect? Is not it? Linwu Jinjuan burst into anger. Who knows? Qin Daoxian let out a chuckle, and slowly his laughter became louder and louder, until the whole hall was filled with his laughter. Looking at Qin Daoxian who was laughing, Qin Zhan, who was not far away, said to his concubine Qin Shui, Brother Qin's laugh is really exaggerated. If he can't beat him, I want to beat him. Fei Qinshui glared at him, my brother-in-law. Hearing this, Qin Zhan pouted, I've protected him before I even crossed the door. Fei Qinshui turned her head away and ignored him. In the hall, everyone frowned when they heard Qin Daoxian laughing wildly. Especially the true monarch Linwu was even more furious. Qin Daoxian, are you making fun of me? Do not. Qin Daoxian shook his head. I'm not laughing at you, I'm laughing at all of you here. Just a few of you are worthy of me spending my time in planning? Straight. Huangko child. Qin Daoxian, don't be too arrogant. Qin Zhan looked at the hall where there was a lot of scolding and murmured, I really need to be beaten. 7017K. Chapter 445. Looking at the angry crowd in the hall, Qin Daoxian raised his head slightly. It's useless to talk too much. Let's see the real chapter under our hands. It is good. True monarch Linwu restrained the anger on his face. Since that's the case, let me come to experience fellow Daoist Chen's Taoism. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian shook his head. True monarch Linwu raised his eyebrows. Why, are you afraid? I'm in the world. It's inevitable to be a bit incompetent against you, a late nascent soul. He thought for a while and then his eyes swept to the people present. Well, let's go together. Only this time no one was angry. Because everyone knows that in terms of personal strength, Linwu Jinjuan is by no means Qin Daoxian's opponent. Even if everyone present shot together, they may not be able to match Qin Daoxian on the second floor of the world realm. What? Let you both go together but you still don't feel sure? Qin Daoxian sneered. Oh right, you want to borrow the Emperor Yu Bell from Shuer, right? With that said, Qin Daoxian turned to look at Fei Qinshui and extended his hand towards her. Fei Qinshui understood. With a wave of her hand, a small golden bell flew towards Qin Daoxian. It is the treasure of the Jinzong of the Qinyuan Jinzong, the pure Yang fairy bell, the Yuhuang bell. Gently holding the Emperor Yes bell, Qin Daoxian chuckled lightly. You boasted that Hai Cao could kill me just now. Did you rely on this thing? Looking at the Emperor Yes Bell and Qin Daoxuan's hands, Linwu Jinjuan, Qinyuan Palace Master and others all froze in their hearts. This treasure actually fell into the hands of Qin Daoxian, and I don't know what kind of ecstasy soup the sect master was poured into by him, but he actually handed the treasure of Jinzong into the hands of an outsider. Just when everyone didn't know what to do, Qin Daoxian through you Huangzhong Chao Linwu Jinjuan, since you are so confident, I will lend you this treasure, but I want to see if you have the ability to kill me with it. Qin Lang. Seeing this scene, Fei Qinxue stood up immediately. She knows the power of Emperor Yes Bell better than anyone else. Although this treasure cannot exert much power in the hands of nascent soul cultivators, if several nascent soul cultivators join forces, some of the power of this treasure can still be stimulated. And with this little power, it is enough to be comparable to Yuanshan Daojun, which is also the biggest trump card of Qinyuan Jianzong facing Jinjuan Linwu's unbelievable look. Emperor Yes Bell slowly flew into his hands. True Monarch Linwu looked complicated. Qin Daoxian, are you really not afraid of death? I said, no matter if you are a person or a group of people, or you are holding a pure Yang fairy weapon, you are not my opponent. Since you want to give it a try, I will give you a chance to be convinced. Take it, call all the monks you can, and they'll be waiting for you in the endless void. Speak. Qin Daoxian waved his hand, and a void black hole appeared in the hall. Qin Daoxian strode into the black hole of the void and disappeared in front of everyone. Seeing this, everyone looked at each other. Immediately, they followed closely and stepped into the void black hole. Let's go. Seeing this scene, concubine Qinxue knew that this battle was inevitable, and she only hoped that this battle would damage as little as possible the true monarchs of the Qinyuan sword sect. After all, those who followed Qin Daoxian were all the top true monarchs of Qinyuan sword sect. This level of powerhouse, the entire Qinyuan Jianzong adds up to only a dozen or so, which is very precious. Endless void. One after another figure flew out of the void black hole and stood in the void. Qin Daoxian glanced at random and there were 7 people standing behind Linwu Jinjuan. The other 3 stood behind Fei Qinxue and Qin Zhan. Seeing this scene, the palace master Qinyuan was furious and glared at the 3 of them. You guys among the 3, a cultivator stood up, rushed to the master of the Cloud Palace and cupped his hands. The sect master, whether it is cultivation or merit, is among the best among the sect masters of the Qinyuan sword sect. And the 3 of us believe in the sect master's choose, traitor. The palace master Qinyuan snorted coldly and turned his head to stop looking at them. True monarch Linwu shook his head and sighed. Palace master Mo, forget it, everyone has their own aspirations so there is no need to say more. I will wait for the peace of mind to meet the enemy. It is good. Mo Wuxian nodded. Today I will be with brother Linwu and we will meet for a while with my Wan Xinghai's number 1. One day only. Looking at the 7 top true monarchs in front of him. Although Qin Daoxian was confident enough to win without using Dao soldiers, in order to be safe, Qin Daoxian still activated the bronze bracelet in his hand. Boom. In the blink of an eye, 5 Dao soldiers appeared around Qin Daoxian. Looking at the sudden appearance of the Taoist soldiers, the opposite side suddenly became commotion. Qin Daoxian, why do I think you are so courageous? It turns out that you have a helper. Please help me to ambush me and wait. You are also worthy of becoming the co-lord of the Wangxinghai? The opposite side suddenly shouted. Enough. True monarch Linwu shouted, then took a serious look at the 5 Dao soldiers, then looked at Qin Daoxian and asked, Dao soldiers? Qin Daoxian nodded, exactly. Suddenly, true monarch Linwu smiled. No wonder you are so confident that you can win over us who hold the fairy weapon. Qinyuan Palace Master heard the Dao soldiers once and immediately reacted. His eyes widened and he couldn't believe it. Brother Linwu, are these people from the legend? That's right. A trace of bitterness flashed across Linwu Zhenjin's face. Dao soldiers but also a complete Dao soldier squad. Linwu Jinjuan had foreseen their failure. The Dao soldiers have always been used by the disciples of the great forces to protect the Dao. Ordinary cultivators don't talk about it, many have never even heard of it. This is also the reason why several cultivators present scolded Qin Daoxian as despicable. Linwu Jinjuan, you use immortal weapons, I use Dao soldiers, I'm not taking advantage of you, right? True monarch Linwu didn't answer, he only shouted, form a formation, heard. The 7 top true monarchs immediately flew to different directions, setting up a mysterious formation. Next moment. One after another, the true monarchs pointed to swords and pointed to the direction of Linwu true monarch. Afterwards, beams of mana light followed their fingers and shot towards Jinjuan Linwu. Do not. To be precise, he did not shoot at Jinjuan Linwu, but at the small golden bell in Jinjuan Linwu's hand. The Emperor Yu Bel is the treasure of the Qinyuan sword sect, and the Qinyuan sword sect has never been born with monks who can fully use it. Therefore, in order to use the Emperor Yu Bel, the Qinyuan sword sect has also developed a lot of means. The means that Linwu Jinjuan and others are using now is one of them. What this method pays attention to is to gather the mana of many Yuanying monks to motivate Yu Huangzhong. Although in terms of flexibility and power, there is no way to compare it with a single Yuanshan Daojun urging it, but fortunately it can stimulate part of Yu Huangzhong's power. As the mana beam shoots towards the golden bell, the Emperor Yes bell swelled rapidly, and in just a split second, it changed from a small golden bell that could be held in one hand to a behemoth that almost covered the endless void. Qin Daoxian stood under the Emperor Yes bell as small as an ant. Although this was not the first time he had seen Emperor Yuzhong show his power, but when he saw it again he was still extremely shocked. No wonder Xiao Yuhua was thinking about this pure yang fairy weapon. In the hands of a group of Yuanying monks, the Emperor Yu Bel has such power, if it falls into the hands of Yuanshan Daojun. Qin Daoxian shook his head. He no longer thought about it and immediately issued an order to the Taoist team, defend the enemy. Following the order, the Taoist team quickly changed its orientation, and the two Taoist soldiers in charge of defense erected two shields in their hands that were comparable to the size of door panels. The rest of the Taoist soldiers stood behind the two Taoist soldiers. The Dao soldiers formed a defensive formation, and Qin Daoxian was supported by them at the very center. Side. Qin Zhan, who had not recovered from his injuries, saw this sky-shattering scene and couldn't help but said to his concubine Qin Shui, "Senior sister, why don't we hide for a while?" "Don't hide." Concubine Qin Shui looked at the top of Mount Tai, looking at Qin Daoxian and Yu Huangzhong who was pressing down on them with bright eyes. "I believe him." "Qin Zhan, Qin Daoxian. Die." Lin Wu shouted loudly, and the Emperor Yes bell fell like a star, slamming into Qin Daoxian. Boom! A terrifying energy storm erupted where the two collided. For a time, there were all kinds of energy rays in the endless void. Fortunately, there is an endless void here, the space is extremely stable, and there is no situation where the space is broken down. The hurricane energy storm blew thousands of miles. Gradually, the core of the energy storm subsided. Dead. Dead. The palace master Chen Yun breathed heavily and muttered. At the last moment, Yu Huangzhong's speed of extracting mana was too fast. Rao is because he has a deep foundation, and his mana is much deeper than that of ordinary nascent soul monks, and he can't stand Yu Huangzhong's extraction of mana. This is still the case when they have 7 top true monarchs to perform together, if only one Qinyun palace shudders and shudders. I'm afraid he will be sucked into adulthood by this Emperor Yu. Not far away, Jinjuan Linwu was also panting heavily, shook his head and said, "He is not dead, his breath is still there." The power that Yu Huangzhong burst out was even greater than Linwu Jinjuan imagined. But even so, Qin Daoxian could not be resolved. Thinking of this, true monarch Linwu couldn't help but feel depressed. These people should be the strongest group of people in the opposition forces of Qinyuan sword sect. As for the other true monarchs of nascent soul, in the face of an enemy like Qin Daoxian, it is of no use at all. Even if they hadn't held the Emperor Yu Bel, they wouldn't have caused any threat to Qin Daoxian. The most important thing is that Qin Daoxian can fight them face to face, instead of relying on his outstanding personal strength to fight against them. When they went to Zhong Nei to bring more nascent soul cultivators to battle together, they would be a little shameless. The energy storm dissipated. Qin Daoxian appeared intact in everyone's sight. Looking at the white figure in the distance, Qin Zhan said in shock, "With such a strong attack, it can't even shake the opponent's defense." The attack that Linwu and the others unleashed just now has definitely reached the level of Yuanshan Daojun. Unfortunately, this attack method is ineffective against Yuanshan Daojun. Qin Zhan naturally knew what senior sister's attack meant to be ineffective against Yuanshan Daojun. Yuanshan Daojun would not be foolish to wait for a group of Yuanying monks to set up the formation, and then urge Yu Huangzhong to attack him. When Yuanshan Daojun faced a group of Yuanying cultivators, he either rushed directly into the enemy's line, killed a lot or used kite tactics to fight with the opponent. Never stand in the same place stupidly and let the other party use his methods. Qin Daoxian's move was entirely to defeat the confidence of the cultivators present to resist. In other words, defeat the confidence of the opposition forces of Qinyuan Jianzong. In the middle of the Taoist team, Qin Daoxian waved his hand, and the 5 Taoist soldiers changed into bronze bracelets and wore them on his right hand. After doing all this, Qin Daoxian looked at everyone. "Now, are you convinced?" Hearing this, the expressions of everyone present kept changing. Finally, Jinjuan Linwu sighed and said, "Fellow Taoist Qin, I admit that your current strength is the highest among all the stars, and with your potential, you won't conspire against my Qinyuan sword sect." Having said that, Jinjuan Linwu laughed at himself. "My Qinyuan sword sect, apart from this Emperor Yes Bell, there is probably nothing worthy of your conspiracy. But just now, you personally handed the Emperor Yu Bell into my hands and I'm obedient." Linwu Yu. Seeing that Linwu Jinjuan was soft-spoken, the palace master Qinyun said with trembling, "You are betraying the sect. Junior brother Mo, that's all." "That's it?" Mo Wuxian roared, "My Qinyuan sword sect has been established since ancient times, and it has been passed down through ups and downs to this day. You told me that now I want to bow my head to a yellow-mouthed child? I tell you it can't be done." After all, the palace master Qinyun flew out from the crowd. "Qin Daoxian, even if everyone in the Qinyuan sword sect surrenders to you, I can't refuse to accept it." With that said, he looked at Fei Qinxue again. "I misread you. Back then I should have stood by Yi Yin over there, at least he won't betray the sect." Qin Daoxian die. With a loud roar, Qin Yundianism rushed towards Qin Daoxian without hesitation, posing a desperate attitude. However, with his mana almost exhausted, how can he compete with Qin Daoxian on the second floor of the world realm with only his physical cultivation? I saw Qin Daoxian gently raise his hand and flick his fingers. The space cage immediately enveloped the opponent. Under the blessing of the power of the world, Qin Daoxian's space cage is many times stronger than before. At the very least, a top true monarch with exhausted mana can never be broken just by his physical cultivation. I saw that the space cage kept shrinking and finally, it turned into a round bead similar to a glass bead, which was put into his sleeve by Qin Daoxian. Seeing that Qin Daoxian suppressed the Qinyuan palace master instead of killing him, Linwu Jinjuan, including concubine Qin Xue, all breathed a sigh of relief. Speaking of which, the palace master of Qinyuan and Yi Yin are different. After all, Yi Yin is not for the sect, he has his own selfishness, while the lord of the palace of Qinyun and the true monarch Linwu are all for the Qinyuan sword sect. If Qin Daoxian kills these two on the occasion of these two alliances, it will inevitably cause the Qinyuan sword sect's heart to float. In the end, even the more than 5,000 fourth-order refiners who had been included in the beetle would have a rebellious heart. Force is indeed very important, but when running a force is not everything. Sometimes people's hearts are often more important. With Qin Daoxian's strength, he can indeed easily kill all the opposing forces in Qinyuan sword sect. But in this way the hearts of Qinyuan Jianzong dissipated. He also counted on the disciples of Qinyuan sword sect to manage Wan Xinghai and Izumo for him in the future. After all, relying on the Qin family alone, it would be a fantasy to manage the Nuoda Wan Xinghai and Izumo. 7017K. Chapter 446, 10 days later. Outside the Qinyuan sword sect, a spirit boat flew over from all directions. Occasionally there are also flashes of light passing by, and it is a scene of an immortal family. On a spirit boat, two purple mansion monks, a man and a woman, are talking. These two are not other people, they are Zhou Mubai, the young patriarch of the Zhou family in Sangzhou, and Yang Gongwan, the patriarch of the Yang family. Compared with Zhou Mubai, who has not yet fully taken over the power of the family, Yang Gongwan has already taken over the power of the Yang family from his grandfather. It's really like a dream. In the cabin, Yang Gongwan's voice of exclamation came. Yes, Zhou Mubai nodded. It was just a rumor before, I didn't expect that Patriarch Chen would marry the suzerain. I don't know what to think. Yang Gongwan frowned and said, they just got married like this, wouldn't it be too hasty? Heard. Zhou Mubai looked at Yang Gongwan thoughtfully and said, it's not too hasty, the marriage between the Patriarch Qin and the suzerain has been fermented in Wan Xinghai for several years. For such a long time, Qinyuan Jianzong has not come out to refute the rumors. It can be seen that the marriage between the imperial concubine and the Patriarch Qin is not groundless. I think the reason why this news was delayed until a few days ago is probably what I said before, there are too many people in the Qinyuan sword sect who are against it. So, Qin, he suppressed the opposition within the Qinyuan sword sect? Zhou Mubai picked up the spirit tea on the table, whether it is the Patriarch Qin or the imperial concubine, but someone must have suppressed the opposition. Otherwise, Qinyuan Jianzong would not invite the monks from all immortal tribes in Wangxinghai to come to participate in the double cultivation ceremony of the Patriarch Qin and the sect master of the imperial concubine. Yes. Yang Gongwan stared at the teacup on the table, lost in thought. Seeing Yang Gongwan's soulless appearance, Zhou Mubai remained silent. Before Qin Daoxian was born, Zhou Mubai was known as the #1 sword immortal in Guang'an Prefecture, and his scenery was unparalleled for a while. But compared with Qin Daoxian, he seemed so mediocre at the beginning. He was still a little unconvinced in his heart. But as Qin Daoxian's strength became stronger and his status became higher and higher, the dissatisfaction in his heart had long since disappeared. Facing Qin Daoxian, a former friend, once again he only had admiration and no other emotions in his heart. In any case, Qin Daoxian was also a strong man who went out from his Guang'an mansion. Zhou Mubai and Yurong Yin were both monks in Guang'an Prefecture. In fact, the monks in Guang'an mansion and even the entire Cangzhou were in a similar mood to Zhou Mubai. Being in the same state as a peerless genius like Qin Daoxian, everyone felt a sense of pride. Zhou Mubai could understand Yang Gongwan's loss. Because Yang Gongwan was also the one who witnessed Qin Daoxian step by step to where he is today, and as a woman, it was normal for Yang Gongwan to have a crush on a genius like Qin Daoxian. If you ask the fairies of the immortal clan in Cangzhou and even the states who have not left the pavilion, there are a few who have never imagined that their Taoist companion is Qin Daoxian. But fantasy is destined to be only fantasy. Zhou Mubai is indeed getting married, but the object of his marriage is also the existence that all the cultivators of Yang Gongwan look up to. Fairy Yang, don't think about it, Gan Qinjiazi is here. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian turned his head to look out the window, and Qinjiazi's guardian formation was already in sight. In order to welcome guests from all over the world, Qinjiazi's guardian formation has long been open. At this moment, both the cultivator's escape light and the Chen's house where the cultivator was riding were all unimpeded. Qin Jiafei went to Zhan Xianglian. What the two of them saw along the way were all brightly decorated and beaming scenes. Even the cranes and birds flying in the sky were covered with red ribbons. The entire Zhan Xianglian is now plunged into a sea of red. Chen's house. Qin Daoxian looked at the mortal city in the red ocean below and muttered, Zhan Xianglian really spared no effort to publicize his and Zhan Xiang's wedding this time, you see. Yuan Jinzong looked in the direction of Zhan Xianglian's finger. After today, Yang Gongwan's situation will change. Gan Qinjiazi may no longer be the ruler of Yang Gongwan, or, in other words, not only the ruler of Zhan Xianglian. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian was shocked. You mean? But how is this possible? The people who do Qinjiazi will definitely applaud. Although I don't know how Patriarch Qin did it, based on what I know about him, if it weren't for this, he would never have gotten married to concubine Qinxue. Seeing Zhan Xianglian's determined appearance, Qin Daoxian hesitated. Indeed, she knew very well what Zhou Mubai's character was. With his character, if he could not lead Qinjiazi and control Yang Gongwan, he would never marry concubine Qinxue. In the end, although Zhou Mubai looks gentle and elegant on the surface, he is actually an extremely powerful figure. Zhan Xianglian expects to rely on concubine Qinxue to marry the other party, and it is impossible to accept such a master. Qin Daoxian opened his mouth and was about to say something. Yuan Jinzong said, Let's go out, the people of the suzerain are here. It is good. Qin Daoxian swallowed the words that came to his mouth, and went out together with Zhan Xianglian. Go out of Chen's house. Sure enough, a welcoming team jointly formed by the sect master and Zhan Xianglian greeted the two of them. There are not many monks in this team, there are only 6 people in total, 3 of them are sect master monks, and 3 are disciples of Gan Qinjiazi. Although it was the first time to cooperate, Brother Zhan Xiang and Gan Qinjiazi's disciple got along very well, at least on the surface. His gaze swept across the crowd, and finally Yuan Jianzong's gaze stayed on the body of a sect master cultivator, who was the leader of the welcoming team. Clan Chief Zhou, Clan Chief Yang. The cultivator of the Zhan Xianglian generation bowed his hands to Yuan Jianzong and Zhan Xianglian. Welcome to the double cultivation ceremony of my patriarch Zhan Xiang and his concubine Xiling. Fellow Taoist is polite. With that said, Yuan Jianzong handed over the invitation card in his hand. The cultivator of the Wan Xinghai generation took the invitation, and after verifying it with his hands, he said respectfully, "Tu, please come with me. There is a Taoist friend." Following behind the welcome team, Zhan Xianglian couldn't help but said, "The suzerain sent a cultivator of the Zizi generation to greet us." Fairy Yang, don't be angry, Zhan Xianglian shook her head. There are not many sect master cultivators, and they are the 4th generation of sect master cultivators in the future. Speaking of which, like the monks of the Fuzi generation, they are also the mainstay of the sect master. They came to greet us. The sect master had already given us a high look. You must know that there are too many immortal clans here today. There are more than 10 Yuanying families in Yanggongwan alone, and this is not counting the Xiuxin family that Yingwe has newly joined? As for the Jindan family, it is even more numerous. With so many cultivating families, how could Zhan Xiang send monks from the Daoist or Fuzi generation to greet them one by one? Hearing this explanation, Qin Daoxian was no longer silent. In fact, she also has this in her heart. Compared with the suzerain, her Yang family is just a small family that cannot stand on the table. Now the sect master can send 3 cultivators of the Zizi generation to greet them, all because of their old feelings. Although there was still a glimmer of extravagance in his heart, Qin Daoxian had to succumb to reality. It was impossible for Zhan Xianglian to meet her in person. Perhaps, now she can only stand in the corner of the wedding celebration, silently watching the other party on the high platform. Seeing Qin Daoxian's low mood, Yuan Jinzong thought she was still brooding over this matter, and he couldn't help but continue to persuade him. Besides, the cultivation of this cultivator of the Zizi generation is not low, and he has reached the 3rd floor of the Zifu, so let him come. Greeting you and me is enough to give me both face. Brother Zhou, you don't have to persuade me, I know. Zhan Xianglian forced a smile and said, I'm just not used to it. Hearing this, Yuan Jinzong looked at the welcoming team leading the way for the two and murmured, who can get used to it? Once Zhou Mubai was in front of him, he was only a junior who was instructed by him, but now he was greeted by a cultivator of the Wan Xinghai generation. The gap is so big that it is difficult to change the temperament of Yuan Jinzong for a while. Sovereign development speed, too fast, too fast. The person who is almost unfamiliar with it has just recognized its status, but the other party has rushed to a new level. As more and more guests came, the auspicious time of Zhou Mubai and Fei Chengshi's double cultivation ceremony is getting closer and closer. Within a cave, concubine Qinxue was sitting in front of the dressing table, and all around her were immortal servants and maids dressed for her. As the space fluctuated, a figure appeared instantly. It was Qin Zhan, who had not fully recovered from his injuries. Seeing that concubine Qinxue was still slowly dressing up, Qin Zhan was in a hurry. Oh, senior sister, why haven't you dressed up yet? The wedding auspicious time is coming soon. No hurries? Concubine Qinxue sat quietly in front of the dressing table, watching her newly recruited disciple Lingzhou dress her up, and said, let them wait. Hearing this, Qin Zhan's expression froze slightly. Suddenly he thought of something, moved and said, Senior sister, shouldn't you be relaxed? Fei Chengshi's jade hand could not help clenching the bright red xiao pai. She stood up, looked at Qin Zhan and said indifferently, who is afraid? Qin Zhan smiled, okay then hurry up, everyone is waiting. After finishing speaking, before Fei Chengshui went mad, her figure disappeared instantly. Spirit boat. The disciple is here. Lingzhou lowered his head. Does my current appearance look good? Lingzhou carefully looked at concubine Chengshi's dress, wearing a phoenix crown, wearing a robe, under the eyebrows of 2 curved willow leaves, a pair of beautiful eyes like autumn water, under the snow-white yao nose, lips like danxia. Her pair of white and tender ro-yi gently crossed together, tucked into the wide big red sleeves, looked dignified and noble. Rao Shiling's appearance is absolutely beautiful, and seeing the appearance of Fei Qinxue at this moment, he still can't help but feel a little ashamed. She looked at concubine Qinxue with burning eyes and nodded with a smile. Master, you are so beautiful today. Qin Jinjuan will definitely drool when he sees you. Hearing this, Rao Fei Chengshi's temperament couldn't help but blushed slightly. She spat lightly, reached out and touched Zhan Xiang's forehead and said, you little girl, you salivate in everything. It came out and the net said some dirty words. Lingzhou looked at concubine Chengshi's shy appearance, and laughed even more, and even the immortal servants and maids in the house laughed lightly. Hearing the laughter in the house, Fei Chengshi's ro-yi couldn't help but relax, and Chang's mood was also relieved. Lingzhou, let's go. Yes, master. After all, Lingzhou lightly supported Feikings's hand, and behind her, several fairy girls supported Feikings's xiaobi, and everyone walked into a big red immortal boat and flew towards the ceremony site. This time, the number of monks who came to participate in the double cultivation ceremony was no less than that of the last time when the Izumo kingdom was attacked. Even because this time, many immortal clan of Izumo country sent people to come. The number of people in this double repair ceremony is more. Due to the large number of people, it is not appropriate to hold this celebration in the main hall. There is no hall that can accommodate so many monks. Therefore, this double repair ceremony is still held in the place where the last celebration ceremony was held, but there are only 2 protagonists of this ceremony, that is, Zhan Xianglian and Fei Qinxue. When Fei Chengshi's immortal driver arrived, on the high platform in the center of the venue, Zhou Mubai was already wearing a red dress and had been waiting for a long time. Watching Gan Qinjiazi Xiling Immortal arrive. The monk in charge of the harmony sang loudly, and as the mana surged, the voice instantly resounded through the sky. Dry Qinjiazi Xiling. Drive here. Following this harmony, the hundreds of thousands of monks at the scene fell silent. Immediately after, the chaotic congratulations sounded, See Xiling. Participate in Xiling. See Xiling. The voice reverberated between the heavens and the earth, and the cranes and birds above the sky seemed to be startled by this condensed momentum and flew far away. Inside the fairy car, concubine Chengshi's voice rang in the ears of every monk. Everyone is excused. Thank you Xiling. The chaotic and uniform voice once again made Zhou Mubai see how high the status of concubine Qinshue was in the minds of cultivator Yang Gongwan. Zhenjuan Linwu was sitting on the high platform, looking at the much-anticipated concubine Qinshue with a long gaze. On the one hand he was proud that Qinjiazi had produced such an excellent Xiling, and on the other hand he was also helpless that Yang Gongwan gave birth to the evildoer Zhou Mubai at the same time. It would be great if Yang Gongwan had only Xiling alone. Qin Zhan, who was sitting beside him, smiled. It's not too bad now, we'll all become a family soon. Linwu Zhenjuan blew his beard and glanced at him and stopped talking. Old man, I'm not talking about you. Even if Yang Gongwan is only a senior sister, how can she develop Qinjiazi? We have worked hard for more than 400 years, but we have only captured one Izumo country from the Shenqing Dao League. Even if senior sister destroys the Shenqing Dao alliance, how much can Qinjiazi develop and grow? Isn't it still a second-rate sect in the borderlands of Xianyun continent? But let Zhou Mubai take over my job as Qinjiazi, might we be able to become the top sect in the Fengyun world in the future? Just make your spring and autumn dream. Qin Zhan smiled and did not argue. Facts have proved everything. Zhou Mubai is too terrifying. What he said just now that Qinjiazi can set foot in a top sect in the future is not nonsense. He really has a hunch that in the future of Zhou Mubai and Ganzhan Xianglian are limitless. In comparison, the mere sharing of Yang Gongwan and Izumo's ruling power is nothing. Besides, how many sect master monks are there? If Zhan Xiang wants to rule such a huge territory, doesn't he have to rely on Gan Qinjiazi and the major immortal clans? 7017K. Chapter 447. The double repair ceremony lasted for 10 days. As masters, Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinshue would naturally not be with the guests for 10 days. In fact, the two simply showed their faces in front of everyone and left the main venue. Concubine Chengshi's dojo cave. Inside the cave, a majestic palace. This palace is the place where concubine Qinshue practiced on weekdays. At this moment outside the palace, there are red lanterns and red carpets. Compared with the previous Xinjia cave mansion, there are more fireworks and festivities. In the palace, only Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshue were left. Qin Daoxian walked slowly to the front of Fei Qinshue and sat down, gently holding the other's jade hand. Fei Chengshi's little hand stiffened at first, and then became soft again. From now on you and I are Taoist companions. Well, from now on I will always be of the same mind with my husband, and we will live and die together. Fei Qinshue raised her head, her face full of solemnity. But Qin Daoxian could still feel that she was very nervous at the moment. Shui'er, don't be nervous. I'm not nervous. Then shall we rest early? You and I are both monks, why should you rest? Fei Qinshue blinked and said mischievously. Listen. Qin Daoxian was taken aback by what she said, and when he reacted, he realized that he had been molested by the other party. Okay, you actually dare to tease me, let's see how I deal with you. After speaking, he rushed towards concubine Qinshue. For a time, the palace was full of spring the next day. Although the double cultivation ceremony in Qinyuan Jianzong is still being held, it has nothing to do with Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinshue. Opening his eyes, Qin Daoxian's right hand moved slightly, his palm was soft and smooth. Hey, concubine Qinshue woke up faintly, and saw Qin Daoxian beside him with a naked upper body, her cheeks flushed. Morning, ma'am. Qin Daoxian smiled at her. Well, my husband is early. Fei Qinshue responded like a little wife and then whispered, turn your head around. It is good. Qin Daoxian nodded and turned around immediately. After a while, concubine Qinshue dressed her fairy clothes neatly. This fairy robe on your body seems to be the colorful colored glaze robe produced by my Qin family, right? Exactly, concubine Qinshue nodded, Speaking of which, our Qin family's artifact refiners are meticulous in their minds. They don't want the people in the artifact refining hall to study all kinds of offensive and defensive instruments all day long. Hearing the word we, Yuan Jianzong smiled even more. Later it'll take you back to Jianghu Island. It is good. Compared with Ganjiang Lanqiu, the influence of the Qin family is too weak after all, so after some discussion, the two decided to hold the venue of Shuangjiang Lanqiu in Ganwan Xinghai. Moreover, the Qin family Jianghu Island is too small. Although Jianghu Island is the ancestral land of the Qin family, this ancestral land is really not a treasure. That is to say, the Qin family took a different approach and opened up the road of industrial production, and they did not rely heavily on spiritual land. For other immortal cultivators to cultivate on an island like Jianghu Island, even if the talent is against the sky, I am afraid that they will not be able to break through to the spiritual stage. The monks' practice pay attention to the wealth and the law. This earth refers to the place of practice. Not to mention compared with the immortal cultivating families in the land of Jianghu and Zhongzhou, even compared with the major spiritual vein families in the cultivating ceremony, the spiritual land of Jianghu Island seems too shabby. Although the Qin family continued to use the spirit stone and the spirit formation method to promote Qi Yao of Jianghu Island had a fifth-order Qi Yao. But it is also a fifth-order Qi Yao, and Jianglan's range is also different. Besides Jianglan, there are all kinds of genius treasures and spiritual treasures in the places where monks need to practice. These things are very scarce on Jianghu Island. The Qin family's solution is to buy from the outside world. Thanks to the Qin family's wealth, almost all kinds of cultivation treasures can be bought with Hualingshi. But after all, Jianghu Island is too small to be used on the table at all. Using it as a place for Jiang Lanqiu and Fei Qinxue to hold their double Qin Daoxian is really too petty. Therefore, under various considerations, the two chose to place the venue of Shuangjiang Lanqiu in Ganwan Xinghai. On the other hand, it is also to take care of the emotions of Ganwan Xinghai's disciple. After a stick of incense, concubine Qinxue carefully served Yuan Jianzong to put on his clothes, and while arranging his collar for him, she said, "By the way, there is something about my concubine, and I need to tell my husband." "What's up?" Yuan Jianzong grabbed Fei Chengshu's jade hand into his palm and said softly, "It's about my disciple Yuan Ying." Yuan Ying. The expression on Yuan Jianzong's face was somewhat unnatural. With the intelligence of concubine Qinxue, he could naturally see Yuan Ying's infatuation with him. But these two people, one is his beloved master and the other is his sweetheart. They can be said to be the two most important people in Yuan Ying's heart. Faced with this kind of blow, Yuan Ying can't accept it for a while, and it is also a matter of the lower ranks. Seeing the embarrassed look on Jiang Lanqiu's face, concubine Qinxue gently leaned her head against Yuan Jianzong's chest. "I deny that I will definitely marry you when I first came down. I am doing Jiang Lanqiu for the sake of repairing the great ceremony. Thousands of creatures to consider. But gradually I found that I really fell on you. I know that Yuan Ying hated you much earlier than me, but I still don't want to give up on you." Concubine Qinxue raised her head. "Husband, is your concubine very despicable and shameless?" Yuan Jianzong didn't know how to answer. After a while, he stroked Fei Xin's snowy hair and said, "I know what Jiang Lan is thinking, but I have never given her any promises and unrealistic fantasies, so this matter you don't have to feel guilty. Besides, what do you master and apprentice think of Esme? Is it a commodity that you let go back and forth?" After speaking, Yuan Jianzong slashed his concubine's snow-white and tender nose, causing the other party to be jealous. But Yuan Jianzong's words made Fei Qinxue put down the biggest stone in her heart. For a long time she felt that she was taking love with a knife and she was very ashamed. But Yuan Jianzong told her that the other party never promised Jiang Lan anything. Yuan Ying was just unrequited love. This undoubtedly made Fei Qinxue put down a huge rock in her heart. "You just said about Yuan Ying, isn't that what it is?" "Not quite," Fei Qinxue shook her head. "I received news from Jinnan Xianqing not long ago that Yuan Ying did not travel in Jianghu, but went to Liangjiyuan." "What?" Yuan Jianzong was suddenly surprised. Two worlds abyss. There is only one space teleportation formation from Jianghu to Liangjiyuan, and that is the Liangjiyuan teleportation formation in the capital of Su country. And this formation is open once every 5 years, that is to say, Nascent Soul was with him at that time, also in that space teleportation formation. It's just that the other party went to Liangjiyuan and he chose to stay. But how could she be so brave? You know, that's the two worlds abyss. It is the front line of the battle between world monsters and human monks. Don't say Jianglan is a Jindan cultivator. Even if the spiritual cultivator goes there, he has to be a man with his tail between his tail. Jindan cultivator is really not much different from cannon fodder in the field outside the territory. Is she looking for death? I'm worried this girl is determined to die. Hear this. Both were silent. This is the only explanation. Yuan Ying is determined to die, and she cannot accept that her master is with her sweetheart. For her, only death is the only way to get rid of it. Taking a deep breath, Yuan Jianzong looked at Fei Qinxue firmly and assured, "You are worried in 5 years the Su Kingdom's Liangjiyuan teleportation formation will open, and I will definitely go to Liangjiyuan in person and finish her down. Bring it back to you. I'll be with you." Yuan Jianzong shook his head. "You still need to be in charge here. The Qin family and Ganwan Xinghai have just merged, so there is bound to be a lot of friction, and the Izumo Kingdom has just been won, and there will be a lot of things inside. You don't have to accompany me, besides I want step down with you." "Not worried." Fei Qinxue was stunned for a moment, and then she said angrily, "Do you think my cultivation base is low and my strength is weak?" "I didn't say that," Yuan Jianzong said with a smile. "Humph." Concubine Qinxue said dissatisfiedly, "My concubine will soon be able to break through to the primordial spirit stage, look." With that said, Fei Qinxue exerted her divine sense with all her might, and pressed towards Jiang Lanqiu. Even though Yuan Jianzong's cultivation base has reached the 9th level of spiritual veins, there is still a certain gap between the soul and Fei Qinxue. If concubine Chengshi's consciousness is fully unfolded, it can cover a radius of 90,000 miles. His spiritual consciousness can only cover more than 60,000 miles, which is nearly half of the difference. And the strength of consciousness depends on the soul. It can be seen that Fei Chengshi's soul is much stronger than Qin Daoxian. Concubine Chengshi's divine consciousness is released as soon as it is released. Yuan Jianzong was really surprised this time. "Shuer, how can your spirit progress so fast?" In his impression, only by taking Tai Xinshui and Tianhua Yulu, the heavenly materials and earthly treasures, can quickly strengthen the soul. The only other means to quickly strengthen the soul is to practice the magic technique. It's just that this kind of exercise is rare, and secondly, it takes a lot of cultivators' energy to practice hard in order to strengthen the soul. Obviously, Qian Jiang Lanqiu didn't have any treasures to enhance his soul, otherwise Fei Qinxue would have used it long ago. The only explanation is that Fei Qinxue practiced the divine cultivation technique. "Are you going to accept the inheritance of the Xiu de Dian?" Fei Qinxue nodded. "I didn't dare to break into this inheritance before, because I was afraid that I would encounter a lower-ranking person after breaking into the Tongtian Tower. Now it seems that compared with the invasion of the real demon world, the danger of the Tongtian Tower is nothing." As the suzerain of Qianjiang Lanqiu, the first thing Fei Qinxue learned was that she must not take risks unless she had to. In this point she is different from Yuan Jianzong, who is constantly fighting outside. Whether it was fighting against the Shenqing Dao League or completely recovering the Kingdom of Clouds, Fei Qingsu had never been to the front line. She only stayed in the rear, strategizing. Because compared to the fact that she was a top-level true monarch who participated in the battle, an intact Qinyuan sword sect master could stimulate the morale of the cultivators. The son of a daughter can't sit down in the hall. This principle is what Gan Wangxinghai, the sect master, Master Fei Qinxue, taught her a long time ago. For the next level it's just one word: go. An evenly matched battle will never be fought unless the strength is crushed. The battle that can be handed over to the subordinates is absolutely not to be played in person, unless it is absolutely necessary. It was with this mentality that Fei Chengshi's patience was also exercised to be extremely strong. Although she already had an absolute advantage against Yi Yin at the beginning, she still showed a posture of forbearance. Those who don't know think that Yi Yin is the one who has the upper hand. At this point, Yuan Jianzong's style of doing things is completely different from hers. Maybe it has something to do with the origins of both parties. Jiang Lanqiu came from a rundown family, and at the end of the family, there were only 2 monks, he and his 13th uncle. If Yuan Jianzong insisted on seeking stability, perhaps the Qin family would have long since disappeared, let alone developed to this point. But Fei Qinxue was different. Since she was a child, she was trained as the heir of Gan Wanxinghai's suzerain. What she has learned, the means of dealing with things, naturally cannot be as risky as Yuan Jianzong. The family has a big business, and naturally there are more worries. Even Yuan Jianzong, with the increasing number of Qin family members, at least in front of the forces who know the details of the Qin family, he is no longer so aggressive. Because he knew that he might not be afraid of the enemy's retaliation, but the Qin family couldn't. This is also the reason why Fei Qinxue proposed a marriage between the two parties, an alliance between the two, and he quickly agreed. If he is the only one, the world is so big, where can't he go? He ignored everything Jiang Lanqiu and Wu Jixianmen. The big deal is to learn the leader of the Sini sect and become a loose cultivator who is desperate for the world. Wouldn't it be fast? Seeing Yuan Jianzong did not speak, Fei Qinxue shook his arm and said coquettishly, "Will you take me with you?" After thinking about it, Qin Daoxian still shook his head. "Because you are about to break through the primordial spirit stage, I can't let you go." "Why?" "There is an order in Tianzuan City. All the new cultivators in the Phoenix Meteor realm must go to Liangjiyuan to serve, and you don't want me to go to Liangjiyuan and serve there forever, right?" This? Concubine Qinxue was at a loss for words. Jiang Lanqiu was right. Wanxing Haitian was far away from the emperor, and he was far away from the land of Zhongzhou and Xianyunsu. Even if a cultivator of the Yuanshan stage was born, as long as concubine Qinxue did not take the initiative to expose it, he would be able to hide from the sky and escape this service. And going to Liangjiyuan, it would be different. Once concubine Qinxue broke through to the Yuanshan stage in Liangjiyuan, she would have to serve in the battlefield outside Liangjiyuan. Even if Tianzuan personally interceded, it was useless. This rule was determined by all the top forces in Tianzuan City. The purpose is to protect the safety of Fengyun world. However, for those cultivators who worked so hard to break through to the primordial spirit stage, this rule was too terrible. They went through hardships and obstacles and finally broke through to the Yuanshan stage, but they were forced by Tianzunqing to serve in the battlefield outside the two realms. Moreover, the service death rate of such a new Jin Yuanshan Daojun is very high. Therefore, Yuan Jianzong was naturally reluctant to let concubine Qinxue go to serve in Liangjiyuan. Didn't you see that Xiao Yuhua was so afraid of going to serve on the battlefield outside the territory? If it weren't for the fact that Wu Jixianmen was too famous and was watched too closely by Tianzuan City, Xiao Yuhua would definitely have fled. However, Yuanshan Daojun went to serve in Liangjiyuan, but Tianzunqing personally ordered, "If you evade service, I'm afraid." "What are you afraid of? If you are found out in the end, you will serve again. At that time, your strength will be improved to a higher level. Even if you go to serve, you will be well protected from danger." Hearing this, Fei Qinxue felt warm in her heart. She nodded obediently. "Okay, my concubine will listen to my husband." 7017K. Chapter 448. Twin Lakes Island. An escaping light pierced through the void and galloped toward Shuanghu Island. On Shuanghu Island, in the Patriarch's immortal mansion, Qin Daoxian was on the side, silently watching Luo Li and Fei Qinxue talking. As his Taoist companion, Luo Li and Fei Qinxue will inevitably meet each other in the future. Fortunately, both Luo Li and concubine Qinxue were both virtuous people. Although the two met for the first time, they did not embarrass Qin Daoxian. "You are Sister Luo Li, I often hear Qin Lang talk about you." Fei Qinxue took Luo Li's hand and said kindly. Meeting with Fei Qinxue, the sect master of Qinyuan Sword Sect, Luo Li was a little nervous at first, but feeling the kindness conveyed by the other party, Luo Li's nervous mood gradually eased. "Well, my concubine is Luo Li and I have seen Sister Concubine." Fei Qinxue smiled and was about to speak. When she saw the flying light from the sky, she swept towards the light with her divine sense, and couldn't help but look at Qin Daoxian. Qin Daoxian's face also became serious and he said to the two, "I'll go back when I go." "It is good." Fei Qinxue and Luo Li nodded. Qin Daoxian's figure disappeared instantly, and the next moment his figure appeared in front of Duanguang. Suddenly blocked by someone, the sect master of Tianyanzong stopped to escape. Seeing the person coming, the sect master of Tianyanzong hurriedly bowed his hands to Qin Daoxian. "I have seen Qin Jinjuan before. Fellow Taoist Zhou is very polite." Qin Daoxian's expression was indifferent, and his tone was not polite at all. Although the sect master of Tianyanzong is also surnamed Zhou, he has nothing to do with the Zhou family in Guang'an Prefecture. Even Qin Daoxian didn't know what the other party's name was, only the other party's surname was Zhou. Seeing Qin Daoxian's appearance, the sect master of Tianyanzong was not angry and said bluntly, "Old Dao came here to warn the real monarch to escape quickly." "Oh?" Qin Daoxian narrowed his eyes slightly. He killed the black-armored cultivator sent by Xiao Yuhua. With Tianyanzong's intelligence channels, he would not be ignorant of any news. Because in the northwestern border of Xianyun continent, only the thousand-array city of Tianyanzong has a large space teleportation formation that connects the capital of Su Kingdom. There are only two ways for the Zhongzhou cultivator to go to the northwest of Xianyun continent. One is to fly by himself, and the other is to take the teleportation formation that connects Thousand Formation City. Obviously, the black armored cultivator went to Wangxinghai in this teleportation formation. This is also the reason why Tianyinzong knew that Qianyuan Jianzong was in danger for the first time. Only that time Tianyinzong did not choose to stand on Qin Daoxuan's side. Although the other party verbally took refuge in Qin Daoxian, in fact they didn't do anything last time, and they didn't even send any news to Qin Daoxian. This matter also made Qin Daoxian see the double-sidedness of Tianyinzong. Although from the perspective of Tianyinzong, it is impossible for the other party to take the risk of offending Yuanshan Daojun to help Qin Daoxian to report the news. However, Tianyinzong had already made a gesture of relying on him before, but he acted so frivolously, which undoubtedly made Qin Daoxian very angry. Originally, Qin Daoxian had already made a secret decision to wait for him to buy enough Taoist soldiers in Chuanbao Pavilion, or 11 to break through the Yuanshan period. You must be the first to conquer Tianyinzong. Only this time, the sect master knew that a Yuanshan Daojun had broken his halberd in his hands, and he had to come to warn him in person, which was undoubtedly too unusual. Unless the other party thinks that the incoming enemy is much more terrifying than the black armored cultivator last time, the word escape will be used. Fellow Taoist Zhou, please make it clear, why did Qin run for his life? Qin Jinjuan, the old Taoist, didn't report the information before, and he was indeed ashamed of Jinjuan. But behind Lao Dao there are millions of disciples of the sect master, the direct disciples of Wuxia immortal sect. Lao Dao really can't afford to offend, please forgive me. Having said that, the sect master bowed to Tianyin's sect. After giving a bow, the sect master continued, I don't know what means Xiao Yuhua used this time, but he actually colluded with the people of the Yunzhou family, intending to encroach on my northwest land. Lao Dao came here on this trip, not only on behalf of my sect master's family, but also on behalf of all the sects in the northwest, to warn the true monarch. You mean the Yunzhou family colluded with Xiao Yuhua? Tianyinzong frowned. The prohibition of Tianzuan city is still in place. How dare they act so boldly and take action against the northwestern sects? Gan Li's family is the gold lord behind the Fenglai and where he lives in the capital of Su Kingdom. Its influence is very large in Zhongzhou, and it is second only to Wuji Xianmen, a cultivator family. Unexpectedly, Xiao Yuhua actually persuaded the people of Gan Li's family to take action for him. Although Xiao Yuhua was a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen to the Yunzhou family, this status was nothing. Because the ancestor of the Yunzhou family was originally a Taoist on the 5th floor of the world, and his strength far surpassed that of Xiao Yuhua, a Taoist on the 3rd floor. In addition, the Gan Li family has been attached to the Wuji Xianmen for countless years, and the foundation of the Wuji Xianmen is not comparable to a mere Xiao Yuhua. Gan Liwan couldn't think of what bargaining chip Xiao Yuhua used to impress the Yunzhou family and let him take action against the northwestern sections. After all, things are different now. Sect Master Gan Liwan sighed and said, it's not that the darkness of Zhengda has attacked the various sects in the northwest. A few days ago, 3 Yuanshan Dao monarchs came to the city of Tianjin, and said that they would let each of the sects in the northwest form a northern immortal alliance, in order to do 2 things. The backup force of the battlefield outside the boundary of the realm. The 3 primordial spirit Daijins were from Wuji Xianmen Xiao Yua's subordinates and Yun's his family respectively. Hearing this, Tianyinzong's heart gradually became clear. It turned out that it was not directly attacking the northwestern sects, but secretly controlling the northwestern sects by forming the name of the Northern Immortal Alliance. But Gan Liwan and other sects have been based in the northwestern border of Xian Situ for more than tens of thousands of years, and they have to take care of their own affairs. Moreover, the sect master and other sects are not stupid, they are very vague. Xiao Yuhua and Gan Li's family control the northwestern sects is only one, the other purpose is probably to dry Qin Daoxuan's pure Yang Fairy. Speaking of which, almost all the sects in the northwest have some treasures in the bottom of the box, but in terms of the most valuable treasure, there is no doubt that it is the Emperor Yubel of Qin Daoxian. Now, with Xiao Yuhua and the Yunzhou family joining forces, people from the northwestern sects are simply unable to compete. In the view of the northwestern sects, the only one who may have the power to resist in the future is only Tianyinzong, who is doing Qin Daoxian. After all, Gan Liwan's previous record of beheading the black armored cultivator has gradually spread in the northwest sects with the arrival of the Yunzhou family. Knowing this record, coupled with the fact that the northwestern sects knew the age of Tianyinzong, they all pressed their treasures on him. This is the scene where the suzerain and the suzerain came to report on behalf of the northwestern sections. They hoped that Tianyinzong could escape, and when he broke through the primordial spirit stage in the future, they would rescue the northwestern sects from the hands of Xiao Yuhua and Gan Li's family again. It seems that the idea of putting hope on the future of Tianyinzong is a bit ridiculous, but this is the best method that the northwest sects can think of. After all, the strength gap between the northwestern sects and the Yunzhou family is too great. The next method is completely ineffective in the face of this dimensionality reduction blow. 7017K. Chapter 449. Twin Lakes Island. Patriarch Immortal Mansion. Looking at the sect master of Tianyinzong in front of her, Fei Qinxue returned to her previous cold appearance. The sect master of Tianyin's sect had obviously dealt with concubine Qinxue, and he was not surprised by her appearance, and he cupped his hands and smiled. Sect master concubine and Dao Yuchen have tied the knot. I am waiting to participate in the two-double cultivation ceremony in the future. Disrespect. It doesn't matter. All the sects in the northwest are now facing the covets of the Situ family and Wuji Xianmen villains. It is not disrespectful for you to not participate in the double cultivation ceremony between me and Qin Lang. Many thanks to the concubine sect master Quan Ren. Seeing that Fei Chengshi's attitude was not as hostile to the northwestern sects as Qin Daoxian, the sect master of Tianyinzong couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Now the Situ family proposed that the northwestern sects form the Northern Immortal Alliance, and its purpose was not only to accept the northwestern sects as vassals. I am afraid that once there is a big conflict with Qinyuan Jianzong, Qinzuan City will be accused in the future, and this so-called Northern Immortal Alliance will become a scapegoat. With such a calculation, the leaders of the northwestern sects are not fools, and of course they can see it. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if Qinzuan City is not held accountable in the future, the sects in the northwest do not want to become a vassal of the Situ family. Because Zhongzhou was a long way from the northwest frontier, no matter how powerful the Situ family was, they couldn't protect the northwest sections. Once the northwestern sects were accepted as vassals by the Situ family, their only role would be to become a resource supply point for the other party. Naturally, the northwestern sects would not be willing to do such stupid things. However, I don't agree with what you just proposed to let Qin Lang retreat temporarily. This? The sect master of Tianyinzong looked at concubine Qinxue suspiciously. Zhou sect master, let me ask you, Shenyang sect, Qingwei Taoist sect, Spirit Insect Valley, Qianji Hall, and your sect, how many of these 5 sects are now defecting to the Situ family? The sect master of Tianyinzong said bluntly, to be precise, now only the Qingwei Daoist family has completely fallen to the Situ family, and the rest of the sects are all following the few Daojun Su and Wei Shi sent by the Situ family. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian frowned. Zhuanyingzong is not willing to join the Situ family with the Qingwei Taoist faction? Young Daoist Qin is joking. The sect master of Tianyin sect smiled. Since the last time you fought with the Hall Master Qin in the Qingwei Taoist sect, the Qingwei Taoist sect and the Shenyang sect have been separated from each other. That's right, concubine Qinxue nodded. In the battle to recover the country of Yun, although Shenyang sect and Qingwei Daoist sect were both injured, in fact the injuries on both sides were not to the point of breaking the bones, but Qin Lang, Yu and Qin Zhan attacked the Qingwei Daoist faction and brought them devastating damage. You must know that the cultivation of monks depends on the law of wealth and companionship. Qin Zhan used the Emperor Yes Bell to give the Qingwei Taoist sect a severe blow, almost destroying the foundation of the Qingwei Taoist sect. Even if the Qingwei Taoist faction still has a large number of nascent soul true monarchs alive this time, it will slowly decline in the future, because the foundation of the Qingwei Taoist faction was destroyed by Qin Zhan. The foundation here refers not only to the spiritual veins of practice, but also to minerals, spiritual fields, spiritual medicine gardens, and the most important inheritance of sect practice. And all of this was destroyed by Emperor Yes Bell. One can imagine how much Qingwei Daoist party hated Qinyuan Jianzong. Back then, when the Shenqing Dao League seized the territory of Yungue from the Qingwei Daoist faction, it did not cause so much damage to the Qinyuan sword sect. At least when Qinyuan Jianzong tried to escape for his life, he took away the inheritance of the sect. And the Qingwei Taoist school does not even have the most important sect inheritance. Coupled with the Qinyuan Jianzong, a powerful enemy, the possibility of the future rise of the Qingwei Daoist faction is infinitely close to zero. The Shenyang sect was different. In the last Izumo War, the foundation of the sect was not shaken except for some nascent soul cultivators who were damaged, and the strength of the sect was still there. After all, Izumo Kingdom is a resource supply point for Shenyang sect and Qingwei Taoism. Now that the Qinyuan sword sect is so powerful that it has taken back this resource supply point for Shenyang sect, it is only a loss of some resources, and it does not cause much damage to itself. Naturally, Zhuaniangzong would not be like the Qingwei Taoist school, holding the mentality of perishing with Qinyuan Jianzong. Hearing this explanation, Qin Daoxian nodded, but immediately thought of something. Even if the Qingwei Taoists want to die with us, how did the Situ family know about all this? It's Yi Tianqi. The sect master of Tianyinzong said solemnly. What? He's not dead yet? Qin Daoxian and Fei Qinxue were all shocked. At the beginning, Yi Tianqi drove the world he opened from the endless void and fled in the direction of Liangjiyuan. Fleeing from the endless void to the two realms abyss, during which they have to pass through the extraterritorial battlefield, the other party, a true monarch nascent soul, is still alive. Hearing this news, Qin Daoxian even felt more surprised than the Situ family secretly attacked Qinyuan Jianzong. Life is really big. Qin Daoxian sighed. On the side, Fei Qinxue nodded in agreement. At that time Yi Tianqi fled for her life and she was also there. When Fi Chengse wanted to come, the other party also panicked and chose to flee from the endless void to Liangjiyuan, which must have been fatal. Unexpectedly the other party is still alive. The sect master of Tianyinzong didn't know about this. He was stunned for a moment and immediately reacted. According to the news from the old Taoist Anzi in the Qingwei Taoist faction, Yi Tianqi is not dead, and has returned intact. It was because of his return that the Qingwei Taoist sect was able to take refuge in the Situ family so quickly. Qin Daoxian nodded. So, now the Situ family has won one of the 5 major sections. Exactly, the sect master of Tianyinzong showed a bitter expression. I have 4 remaining families and it is estimated that it will not last long. The people of the Situ family have given us a deadline. Within 3 months, if there are still stubborn opponents, they will come to my door and tell me in person. Said. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian froze in his heart. The Situ family and Xiao Yuhua sent a total of 3 Yuanshan Taoists, and with the background of the Situ family, among the Yuanshan Jinjuan sent, there must be 3 world-level Taoists. An opponent of this strength with his trump cards may be difficult to deal with. More importantly, the Situ family is different from Xiao Yuhua. Xiao Yuhua is just a direct disciple of Wuji Xianmen. His right to speak in the sect is limited, and he cannot mobilize many Wuji Xianmen resources. The Situ family is a cultivator family. Compared with the sect power, the cultivator family has always been more united. Since the Situ family had chosen to subdue the various sects in the northwest, they would definitely not give up. This time, even if Qin Daoxian repelled the 3 primordial spirit Daijins, he would still have to face the ancestor of the Situ family, the Daojun on the 5th floor of the world realm. Trouble. Qin Daoxian frowned deeply. Fei Qinxue also frowned deeply. She also felt that this situation was not easy to break, but she would not say anything to let Qin Daoxian and her abandon the Zongmen family to escape. She believed that Qin Daoxian would never do anything to abandon his family. Qin Daoxian looked at Tianyinzong sect master and said, "How does Zhou sect master plan to deal with this?" The sect master of Tianyin sect sighed and said, "I have already discussed with Qinji Hall, Spirit Insect Valley and Shenyang sect, and formed an alliance to resist. In addition, the sect master of the 3 major sects asked me to personally send a message to Dao Yuqin, and quickly escape from Wangxinghai. In case we fail, Dao Yuqin, you are our last hope." Although Tianyinzong said that in case of failure, in fact, everyone knew in their hearts that facing the 3 Taoist monarchs, they would inevitably fail. The difference in strength is too great. If all the nascent soul true sovereigns of the 3 major sects were not afraid of death and rushed to take their lives, they might be able to compete with the 3 Dao sovereigns. But in fact, how many monks who can cultivate to the nascent soul stage are not afraid of death? In the face of a higher level opponent like Yuanshan Daojun, how many of them dare to take the lead in charging? Even if someone dared to take the lead in the charge, the true monarch nascent soul who took the lead in the charge would be crushed to death by the 3 primordial spirit Dao monarchs in a single encounter. At that time, it will definitely be defeated like a mountain. It is true that the major sects have treasures at the bottom of the box, but these treasures are not enough to offset the strength gap between Yuanshan Daojun and Yuanying Cultivator. Didn't see Qinyuan Jianzong mastering the fairy weapon of Emperor Yesbel? Were you still worried about the possibility of the Shenqing Dao League giving birth to a Yuanshan Daojun? This is just a primordial spirit Daoist, and the Qinyuan sword sect, who possesses the pure Yang immortal artifact, is feared like a tiger. Now there are 3 such enemies of Yuanshan Daojun. Not only that, but behind the Situ family, there is a more terrifying fifth-level Taoist world realm. In the face of such an enemy, not to mention the northwestern sects of Tianyinzong, even Qin Daoxian was a little desperate. Xiao Yuhua's revenge came too fast, too fierce. Originally, Qin Daoxian thought that Xiao Yuhua would take action in person. But unexpectedly, the other party actually found a stronger foreign aid. Facing the sincere eyes of the sect master of Tianyinzong, Qin Daoxian stood up and said, "I will never escape. But we are not without resistance." Fei Qinxue knew more about Qin Daoxian than Tianyinzong sect master. What she thought of, her beautiful eyes lit up. Qin Lang said. Qin Daoxian nodded, "Dao soldier." Dao soldier? The sect master of Tianyinzong frowned. Although he has never seen such a thing as a Taoist soldier, as the head of a sect, he has heard of this treasure of Taoist protection. It's just rumored that the price of Taoist soldiers is extremely high, and even the drop of Tai Xinshui born from the Qingwei Taoist sect cannot be compared with Taoist soldiers in terms of value. Thinking of this, the sect master of Tianyinzong shook his head. Although the Taoist soldiers are strong, the price is high. How can I afford them? And besides, 1 or 2 Taoist soldiers are useless in the face of such a powerful enemy. Hearing this, Qin Daoxian and concubine Qinxue looked at each other and said, "You don't need to worry about this matter." He paused. "By the way, is it convenient to arrange for me to meet the other 3 sect masters? I may have to leave Wanxinghai for a while. During this period, I would like to hear what you mean to hold back the Situ family." "Okay. I'll arrange this." Hearing Qin Daoxian's determined tone, Tianyinzong sect master's confidence was also lifted up. The next day, the 3 first went to Qinyuan Jianzong to take the space teleportation array, and then Qin Daoxian took concubine Qinxue and Tianyinzong sect master to teleport all the way. Finally, within a day, I arrived at the meeting place with the other 3 major sect masters. At this meeting, all 6 were extremely low-key. Except for the sect masters themselves, no one in the major sects knew that they were going to meet quietly in private. There is no way, facing the pressure of the Situ family, even these sect masters can't guarantee that there will be traitors at the top of the sect. If the 3 Yuanshan Daoju knew that they met in private, when the time comes, all the sects in the northwest, including the Qinyuan sword sect, will collapse directly. The meeting place. The crowd settled directly in Thousand Array City. Because compared with other sects, Thousand Array City has the largest number of space transmission formations and the widest connection area. Thousand Array City not only connects the land of Zhongzhou, but also the southern immortal territory and eastern immortal territory of Xianyun continent. Even if the 3 major Yuanshan Daijins come to the door, they still have a final retreat. Although the possibility of escaping in the space teleportation array under the eyes of Yuanshan Daojun is very small, there is still hope, isn't it? Thousand Array City. In a hidden fairy mansion. 6 Yuan Ing true monarchs gathered here one after another. When the 6 nascent soul true monarchs set it out, they were all stomping their feet, and there would be an earthquake in the northwest. But now they are forced to meet in secret, which is also an anecdote. Wait until everyone is seated. The sect master of Tianyinzong began to introduce Qin Daoxian. Fellow Daoist Qin, these 2 are sect master Qin of Qinji Temple and sect master Wu of Xianyang sect. You must know them too. Qin Daoxian and the 2 cupped their hands together as a greeting. The relationship between him and these 2 is not good, especially with the Xianyang sect master. The 2 were still in the Qingwei Taoism. But now, the 2 have to cooperate to defend against the enemy, and I have to say that the encounter in life is magical. Seeing Qin Daoxian's attitude, the 2 of them didn't show anything, and they bowed their hands to Qin Daoxian lightly, which was regarded as a return gift. After briefly introducing the 2, the Tianyinzong sect master focused on the other. She was also the only female cultivator among the 6, except for Fei Qinxue. This fairy is wearing a crescent white Taoist robe, with a veil on her face, and her figure is beautiful, giving people infinite reverie. But those present were all the top big men in the northwest, and they had long been indifferent to the temptation of mere women. Compared with her appearance, what everyone is more in awe of is the identity of the other party. This is the Plum Valley Master of Spirit Insect Valley. Master Meigu. Qin Daoxian bowed his hands to her. Friend Qin. The Lord Meigu returned a salute to Qin Daoxian. At this moment, Qin Daoxian found out that this Spirit Insect Valley owner is actually a real monarch of the world. Last time, the 3 sects joined forces to raid the Qingwei Taoist sect. The other 2 sects were brought by their sect masters personally. At that time, Qin Daoxian was still surprised. Now that I think about it, this Spirit Insect Valley is hiding its strength. However, the hidden strengths of the Spirit Insect Valley are so pale and powerless when facing the three primordial spirit Daijins. Qin Daoxian is not afraid of the hidden strength of the major sects now, but now he hopes that the hidden strength of the major sects is as strong as possible. It is best to be strong enough to make the Situ family fear and dare not act rashly. After a brief chat, Qin Daoxian said directly, "Everyone, time is urgent, so I won't go around the corner. Since everyone is willing to participate in this gathering, it proves that you don't want your sect to live under others, and become a vassal of the Situ family." Hearing this, everyone nodded. If not, who would dare to take the risk of becoming an enemy of Yuanshan Daojun to gather here? https:// You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.